Welcome in, NBA Nation. The streets are buzzing as draft night is here, day one, and we're going to react live to every single pick, every move. I'll put timestamps as well for replay, gang. But welcome in, guys. We are streaming live on YouTube and X for the first time simultaneously, and it's great to have you with us. The first pick is in already as the draft has just commenced. Get your thoughts, comments, questions in. We'll shout you guys out. But Cooper Flagg, the worst kept secret in the league, is now a Dallas Maverick. And what else is going to happen tonight? It's going to be mayhem, as well as the Indiana Pacers have already made a trade with the San Antonio Spurs. And that is to pick up a pick in the second round. Pick 38 is headed to the Indiana Pacers. The San Antonio Spurs getting out of that pick for a future 2030 second round pick and some cash as well. So San Antonio Spurs giving up pick 38 and the Pacemakers getting up to get pick 38. And it looks like they want to select Andrew Nembhard. Andrew Nembhard's brother, or Ryan Nembhard's brother, sorry. Mike, great to see you in the building. Cooper Flagg headed to the Dallas Mavericks. A lot of talk about Jason Kidd. We heard news today that basically 2 assistants might be leaving as well. We obviously had Sweeney leave Dallas. He's headed to San Antonio to be the lead assistant. The Knicks reports have a lot of interest still in Jason Kidd. What are your thoughts on that? We also have news today that the Knicks will be interviewing James Borrego, formerly of the Charlotte Hornets, former head coach, current assistant with the New Orleans Pelicans. So the Knicks continuing to do their due diligence with their coaching search. Obviously, it's a priority, but it doesn't look like they'll have someone locked in very soon. They're taking their time. I think ideally having someone before free agency, is key. But we'll see, how many more they're going to interview, what's going to happen with Jay Kidd, I think is obviously a major domino to fall. Blessings Al Tango, great to see you. Mike says, I want to see Johnny Bryant get an interview. Yeah, it's kind of gone quiet, Mike, on the Johnny Bryant front. He was basically 50-50 from getting the job in Phoenix. And then now it's kind of gone quiet, no official confirmation that he's had an interview yet as well. So we'll find out. Obviously, strong connections was with the Knicks previously. Great links to William Wesley as well. We'll find out. But obviously now on the board is the San Antonio Spurs. We'll keep everybody up to date live. You see the big board. Johnny says, I'm excited for a whole lot of nothing from the Knicks. I think we'll see something today. We'll see some action. Hopefully they can move up, acquire a pick higher up the draft. Chris Persianen reporting earlier today that the Knicks are very interested in Jameer Watkins out of Florida State. And so it looks like he could go anywhere early in the second round, mid-second round. The Knicks will have to move up, in my opinion, to get a Jameer Watkins. Right? It's going to be tricky to get a guy like that, a wing that can play both sides of the floor. I think that's an ideal target. Kobe Brea. Would love the Knicks to get a Zion James. There's a lot of names, and obviously the second round is tomorrow. Our focus is on the action today, but obviously we're going to chop up everything in the trade wins as well. I heard rumblings that RJ Barrett is more likely to get traded from the Toronto Raptors. That's something interesting to look out for tonight, right? Talk that the Brooklyn Nets could be a possible landing destination. What are your thoughts on that? If we were to potentially see an RJ Barrett back in New York, but with the Brooklyn Nets, that would be a tough watch for me. And I'm an RJ. I like RJ. I think the trade with OG was the right move for the Knicks, but I hate to see RJ get traded again, after going back home to the Raptors but he got his bag and, with the second apron now, if you're not, developing and producing on a consistent basis, staying healthy, you could get traded, man. As the second pick is in and Dylan Harper as well. So these were the two most straightforward picks, guys. And then who knows what happens next? We're going to continue to refresh and update y'all. But Dylan Harper now is the newest San Antonio Spur. Congrats to these guys getting drafted tonight. Buzzer beater, let's go. Salute. Great to see you. We're streaming live on X, Twitter as well. For everyone joining us here, get in the comments section. I'll see the comments if you're tuning in on X. Darren's with us as well. El Tango says our time tomorrow. I don't think we're going to do anything in the first round. CT, do you think we might buy a couple of second round picks? I think it's most likely we move up. We trade out of 50 and we move up, fam. I don't know about 2 picks because I think, the Knicks will be looking to stay below the second apron. And they'll want a little bit of wiggle room so that they can add some veterans as well. We do have quite a few young players to look at. But if we were to maybe move on from a Tyler Kolek, Pacome Dardier, then I could see us acquiring another pick in this draft. Mike says, my guess is they're just throwing out big names right now since it's New York. But we end up with Johnny Bryant or another assistant coach. Yeah, Micah Nori, the news that came out yesterday, that's gathering a lot more buzz. His connections to Gerson Rosas, connections with Karl Anthony Towns, and running a successful system in Minnesota with him. I think that's appealing, not going to lie. And I said this months back. This is, not assuming Tibbs was going to get let go, but I was thinking if we were going to move on from a guy, you bring in a guy that's not a big name, just a guy that's going to roll his sleeves up, no ego, not someone who's stuck in their ways. Yeah, experience is great. Experience is nice. But obviously a lot of these guys have great experience as an assistant. So they've been around, they've worked under some great head coaches. And I think a new name that's going to come in and make a name for themselves, get ahead of the curve instead of these retreads. I spoke on that. But I do like Taylor Jenkins. I think Mike Brown would be a solid addition as well. We'll see how that plays out. Jason Kidd, his son, tweeting some subliminals out as well. JT Kidd talking about flirting with MSG and the New York market. Again, that won't go away. The J Kidd situation is still there, fam. Now, what was really interesting with that Indiana trade, for those that missed it, y'all, Indiana now acquire a pick 38. That's right where I want the New York Knicks to get. So that was frustrating to see the Pacers get pick 38 for just a future second and cash. That's exactly what I thought the Knicks could have and should have done. But it looks like the Pacers do want to select Ryan Nembhard, Andrew Nembhard's brother. That's the buzz right now. What do you think? Johnny says Pacers showing how it's done off and on the court. Not going to lie, man. I think that was a great move for the Pacers. They don't have a first round pick. They traded that one last week for a future. They save some money with Hallie out, and they get into the top of the second round. Fam. So the Philly 76ers are on the clock right now with pick 3. It does look like Daryl Morey is going to keep that pick. What is going to happen? I'm seeing reports now that the Bulls are looking to trade Lonzo or Kobe White. a guy that I've been talking about for a while, I think would be a great fit. Who knows what's going to happen with the Bulls? Let's see what happens. The Bulls will select pick 12 tonight. We have Philly on the clock right now. We're waiting to find out what the move is with Daryl Morey. A lot more pressure. Obviously, it does look like they're trying to make a move on from maybe Paul George. Yeah, Jason, about J-Kid's coaching system. I feel like Taylor Jenkins is more creative offensively. So that's something to watch out for. But no doubt Jason Kidd's experience, processing of the game as an elite point guard is a great addition, if that was to happen, in my opinion. But every coach comes with their kinks. I don't think there's any fan base in any professional sports that's 100% happy with their coach. There's always going to be something that, they wish they could adjust, or they wish they would do more of or less of, or, there's always something. You talk to Heat fans and they'll be like, man, Eric Spoelstra is stubborn. And we're like, let's get Eric Spoelstra. So it is what it is. I think you just hope that the positives outweigh the negatives, and I felt like with Thibodeau, it was like, when we got Thibodeau, it was like, great, we were on the come up. And then we reached that come up. And then it got to the point where, his flaws are outweighing his pros. Salute to Cardiac Knicks in the house. What's taking Philly so long to make a move? I'm refreshing the feed right now. And Keith Pompey has reported that the Sixers will draft VJ Edgecombe. So that's a great pick. Ace Bailey, there was a lot of smoke. It does look like Ace Bailey is, forcing his way to maybe Washington or the Brooklyn Nets, fam. So this is the beginning of the draft tonight, guys. This is where things get crazy, spicy, as things are up in flux. VJ Edgecombe headed to the Els Fargo Center. Philadelphia. I don't think Philly are going to be a top 4 or 5 seed. I really can't see Embiid staying healthy. But it is wide open, man. Let's see what Daryl Morey does. He's kind of ruined a lot of connections. James Harden talks that the Clippers might make James Harden available. Would y'all be open to maybe a potential opportunity to get a James Harden? Let me know. I'm more of the mindset of get younger, get more versatile. I do like Kobe White. I do hope that the Knicks could possibly get in on that. As Shams has confirmed, VJ Edgecombe is headed to Philly, and we now have the Charlotte Hornets on the clock. What are the Charlotte Hornets doing right now, man? The trade got rescinded with Mark Williams. He had to go back to Charlotte. They've got a promising young coach, Charles Lee, but they've had quite a rough pre-draft process. Their name's been dragged through the mud. LaMelo Ball, is maybe at a crossroads with that organization. He wants to win. They want to start winning, but the winning ain't coming right now. They're still years away. If the Charlotte Hornets were a prospect, man, they're 2 years away from being 2 years away, in my opinion. Obviously, you can make a major move. Things can change, but I feel like 2 franchises are at a crossroads with their lead star are the New Orleans Pelicans, who we're going to hit on right now soon with pick 7, and obviously Zion Williamson. Got some great talent in Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, but they traded CJ McCollum. DeJounte Murray was injured last season. That kind of screwed them around a bit. And then you got Zion, man, a huge contract. no pathway to win in the West right now. The wild, wild West. Would you hit the reset button if y'all were the New Orleans Pelicans? Well, they're bad anyway, I guess. So they're going to continue to pick in the lottery. But would y'all move on from Zion if you were running the New Orleans Pelicans? The other team is the Charlotte Hornets. I guess they can continue to suck in the East and pick up draft picks, but are they going to complement LaMelo Ball? And is that the vision? Is that the vision? We'll see. We'll see how that all plays out. But obviously, while we're waiting for the Charlotte Hornets, guys, the news come through today. James Borrego confirmed to be the 4th official interview for our New York Knicks. And I think it's a solid name. I like it. The fact that I like all 4 guys that they've interviewed, to different degrees. I don't think James Borrego is a serious chance, but we've got to wait to find out how that interview went. If I'm ranking, I do think it's Taylor Jenkins, Mike Brown, maybe neck and neck. And then I think it's Micah Nori. And then I think it's James Borrego out of the interviewees. But out of all of them, I think Jason Kidd might be top of their preference right now. We'll see how that plays out. As the Charlotte Hornets are on the clock. Welcome in, Dripmore and Darren. Great to see y'all. Live reactions, NBA Draft Day 1. Still getting used to this situation with round 1 and day 1, round 2 on the second day. I guess it's a weird feeling because the Knicks don't have a pick tonight in round 1. If your team has a pick on both days, then I feel like it would be different. So Indiana, I really like that move today that they did. Unfortunately, the Knicks couldn't get in. Pick 38, pick 54 from the Pacers now. And they obviously send out a future second to San Antonio and some cash. So that was cheap. I wish the Knicks could do something like that. Let's look at the 2 second-round picks that the Hornets have. They have pick 33 and 34 as well. I would love if the Knicks could steal one of those for just cash, VJ headed to Philly. Darren and Cardiac says good for you. Philly didn't draft Bailey or Trey Johnson. Darren saying that trade talks surrounding the 4th pick are continuing for the Hornets. Multiple teams have expressed the desire to move up, and the Charlotte Hornets have options. Okay, so yep, we're waiting to find out that confirmation to see what the pick is. Great to see everyone in the building. Reacting live. Obviously, we have the topic coming up now with the Seattle Supersonics looking like that they're going to get back into the league. James Dolan is one of the owners, one of maybe a few owners in the league that isn't a fan of expansion right now due to the revenue sharing situation. For the league, I understand expansion. I understand as the business model, I understand that it is something that's important. But as we have a pick, I'll get back to that thought in a second, fam. Salute to everyone in the building. It does look like the Charlotte Hornets are going to select Con Knippel with the 4th selection. We're going to vet whether or not they're keeping that pick or not. As these young gentlemen get drafted, fulfill their dreams. Congratulations to all of these guys having their interviews. So the Charlotte Hornets looks like they are selecting Con Knippel with the 4th pick in the 2025 NBA Draft. Buzzer says it's funny that Dallas has not extended Kidd. Yeah, and he's losing assistants as well. So I don't know if you saw earlier today, Buzzer, his kid, Jason Kidd's son, is, flirting with New York on social media. We'll see if anything comes to fruition regarding that. But, various reports have already suggested that they've reported that, Jason Kidd, he would really like this job. It's his dream job. So we've heard that a lot before. I think the Knicks are getting on with the show as they should. You got to interview guys. We'll see what happens with Kidd. They could circle back, but you've got to make sure you just tick all the boxes, fam, and make sure you have a guy that's ready to go. If the Kidd thing never comes up, it may never come up, right? You can't be left at the altar in that situation. So unless the Dallas Mavericks let him go, then it's not realistic for me. So we have the Utah Jazz on the clock right now with the 5th pick coming up. As the 4th pick, Con Knippel, is headed to the Charlotte Hornets. It looks like they're keeping that pick. So a sharpshooter, a guy that can play off the ball next to LaMelo Ball. That seems like a decent fit, from my opinion. You guys let me know. Rate the picks as they come through. Yeah. You've obviously got LaMelo Ball, Con Knippel, Brandon Miller. Could be an offensive dynamite backcourt. A threesome with that situation. The Utah Jazz, a lot of movement coming up. John Collins picked up his option. I think he's going to get traded. Walker Kessler, Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson. Looks like they're going to be available as well. Yeah, with Borrego, Buzzer, I think, so there's a couple of things. He's CAA, so I think they obviously respect him, respect his work. He's a lead assistant. Had a 500 record with the Charlotte Hornets. Had one successful season, getting I think 44 wins for Charlotte. So he can overachieve. But yeah, I don't think he's going to be in the top 3 candidates, fam. If you're going to go with a guy with experience, I think there's guys with more experience. But we'll see how the interviews can play out. As JW shares his thoughts, the Knicks should move on from Kidd. Yeah, he could be using us as leverage for an extension, but I do feel like he has interest, in the Knicks job. We pay well, we have a good roster. And just putting myself in his shoes, like, think about it. You're trying to compete for a championship in Dallas, and then they go and pull the rug from underneath you. You're coaching Luka Doncic, and they pull the rug from underneath you, and all of a sudden you don't have Luka Doncic. I mean, you got to feel like a certain way about that. I know they got AD, but no input. They didn't ask him nothing. It's like 1 minute you're coaching Luka, and then the next minute he's done, he's gone. And so I won't be surprised if he's, angling for the change of scenery, to come over east. Obviously, that's another major thing, you're out east, where the pathway is crystal clear, fam. The sun is shining out east, where it ain't foggy. And, you have a clear pathway to the NBA Finals. I mean, as we wait for the Utah Jazz pick, we've got the best chat in the biz now live with us, 100 people in the building. Smash that like button. Let us know your thoughts. We'll shout you out. Yuri Ark, salute with great coverage. Appreciate you here. It's like our coverage of coaching gets attention, more attention than the draft. It's ridiculous. I hate Shams for even covering it. Yeah, I see a lot of the haters, and it's an opportunity, the platform for the haters to come out and say the Knicks have no plan. But guess what? They don't know the plan. The plan is to find a head coach that's adaptable, malleable, more open to playing extended rotations, more creative coach down the stretch. I mean, some people just aren't capable of like processing what the Knicks are trying to do, and maybe it's not for everybody, and it doesn't need to be. Leon Rose, William Wesley, Gerson Rosas, they know what they're doing. They got connections all over the league. I mean, Leon Rose ran a power agency, CAA. He knows all these guys right now. We did it professionally. You know, people wanted to clown us for tampering. So what did we do? We went through the front door. We knocked on the door and said, "Hey, Minnesota, how about Chris Finch? How about Emu Doka? How about Jason Kidd?" You know, we asked politely. You know, they said no. Fair enough. We move on. We move on to the next one. But I'm not worried about what people are thinking. I'm worried about the guy that we end up with. You know, that should be the priority. And we worry about the rest later. Now, we ain't sitting here acting like Thibodeau doesn't bring anything good. You know, he helped us get to where we are. But the time is right. You know, the time is right to shift to a new voice, a coach with new ideas, and someone who's going to get the most out of, you know, our roster right now. I mean, we got to where we got, you know, 6 wins within an NBA chip, guys, and we had so many flaws. Like Karl Anthony Towns wasn't even shooting threes. He had Brunson isolating the whole offense, and we still almost won the Eastern Conference Finals. You know, 1 win away from the NBA Finals. So yeah, my expectations are high. My hopes are high for this squad. You know, with a new coach, they can come in and they can reinvigorate. I think would be a great word to describe this situation. Right? We got the pieces. We got the chess pieces. We just need to come with a new chess player. J Dub, do I think we will get the 50th pick? Who do I think we will get with the 50th pick? So my gut's telling me we're going to move up, fam. I think we are going to get a serious wing, maybe a Jameer Watkins, Adu Thiero, and we'll see how that plays out. But we have some movement. I'll get back to that thought in a second, guys, as it looks like Ace Bailey has fallen to 5, and the Utah Jazz have selected him. Con Kneppel was a guy that Ainge liked, but he was off the board now. So Ace Bailey didn't work out for Utah, tried to angle his way, I think, to Washington or to the Nets, but he's gotten taken by Danny Ainge now and the Utah Jazz. Wow. That's the first major surprise so far. Ace Bailey headed to Salt Lake. Interesting. What do you guys think? So yeah, J Dub, I think we will move up. We'll get a wing. I hope we can keep pick 50 as well, and maybe get 2 guys. David Haas Jr. says, I think we're going to make a blockbuster trade. So yeah, on that note, reports coming out today via Frank Isola, formerly of the Daily News, does like to stir things up. I do take what Frank says with a grain of salt, but you can't doubt that he has connections. You know, he has contact sources in speaking to executives around the league. He feels like Mikal Bridges and Mitchell Robinson have been heavily talked about in trade scenarios. So that doesn't shock me. As for what is that going to lead to, it's a lot of due diligence. It's a lot of conversations had. 99% of trade talks don't end up, you know, happening into fruition. But I won't be shocked if Mitch or Mikal Bridges do get, you know, put on on the block. For a move that could either, ease our financial situation while getting younger, maybe getting more depth, or maybe stocking the cupboards with some future picks in case Giannis was to ask out. You know, See, all of this thing, guys, Giannis hasn't made his decision yet. So everyone's got to be in position for if and when Giannis says, yeah, I'm open to get traded. And let's say Giannis puts 4 names on his list or 3. Better yet, 2. What if Giannis says, you know, Houston Rockets or Golden State or the New York Knicks? Imagine if he did that and we don't have the assets. So the thing is, Milwaukee might not want Mikal Bridges or Mitchell Robinson because of their age. But if Mitchell Robinson or Mikal Bridges could get you draft picks, let's say 2, 3, 4 future first rounders, then you can stock those for a potential Giannis trade. And then you obviously have to include a Karl Anthony Towns, or you have to include Karl Towns, OG Anunoby, and maybe 3 or 4 picks. Then you can get into the Giannis business. But right now, I don't think we can. It's hard to get into the Giannis business without any picks. Without any picks. Buzzabita says, CT, I'm hearing we want Kobe Bryant out of Kentucky. We do. You're 100% spot on. We do want Kobe Bryant. And I think it would be a great selection. But I think he's going to go in the 30s, possibly early 30s to late 30s. We'll see how that plays out. Sharpshooter, a guy that pulls gravity, a knockdown corner shooter, something that Mikal Bridges didn't give us as much this season. But obviously the two aren't connected. The two can play together. He complements what we have. I'm really hoping the Knicks can move up. And I'm frustrated from that move that Indiana was able to pull off, Obviously, I don't feel like the Spurs were going to help us. I think the Spurs organization still feels like the Knicks did them, or Mook Morris did them dirty. Going back in, was it almost like 6-7 years ago now, when Mook Morris turned his back on them to join the New York Knicks. But instead, the Indiana Pacers were able to swoop in and get the 38th pick. And the New York Knicks are stuck at 50 right now. Calvinist Premal says, Knicks can't play undersized again this season. We need a legit size at the power forward spot. Yeah, I think Tibbs' reluctance to play double big lineups did hurt us. He should have experimented during the regular season. Cat at the 4, Mitchell Robinson at the 5. That gives us more size, but you do need someone to back up Cat. The foul trouble is still going to be a thing. Possible injury scenarios, and I'm definitely feeling like we need a guy that can guard 3s and 4s. I agree with you on that one. David says, Milwaukee wants OG. OG's a great player, plug and play with so many guys. But yeah, it's going to be OG and other pieces, I mean, they're going to have so many offers for Giannis. You have to beat those other offers, and you have to obviously be on Giannis's list of teams when he asks out. So it's a tough situation, but we need to get picks back. We need picks in any other possible deal so that we can send to Milwaukee. That's where I feel like any Mitchell Robinson, Mikal Bridges conversations are going to come from. It's like, okay, we need a rotation player back so that we're not killing our depth, and how many picks can we get back in a possible deal? I feel like we need to take advantage of Phoenix. What do y'all think? They need a starting center in a bad way. Mike Scotto, Hoops Hype, reporting the Washington Wizards will select Trey Johnson with the number 6 pick. So that's a great pickup for the Washington Wizards. They miss out on Ace Bailey, but Trey Johnson, a great pickup for them. Now, huge situation to monitor next season, guys, because the New York Knicks could possibly have 2 first-round picks next season, and that would help us with a trade in a major way, if needed. We have our own pick, and we have the Washington top 8 protected. Now, I'm not very high that pick is going to convey. However, I see a pathway. I see a pathway to that happening. You look at Washington squad, they've just added Trey Johnson. I like their rookies from last season. Bub Carrington, Keyshawn George, Alex Sarr. And then they've got Marcus Smart, Kelly Olynyk, Chris Middleton, Malcolm Brogdon. Got a lot of veterans. You know, those veterans are prideful. They're going to try to win games. So I think there's a lot of bad teams still out east. I think Brooklyn will continue to be bad. They'll tank. The Charlotte Hornets will continue to be bad as well. Let's see what happens with the Chicago Bulls. With that veteran Wizards team, I could see them winning more games than the Bulls. So you need maybe 4 or 5 teams in the East and 3 or 4 teams out West. And then, you know, that's a chance to convey as a top 9 pick to the New York Knicks. But critical thing to note, guys, is the Wizards don't need, you know, a 9th worst record for that pick to convey. Even if they finish with the 6th worst record, don't forget about the draft lottery. They could slide. So let's say, for example, the Wizards finish with the 5th or 6th worst record, but on the lottery night, they get unlucky and they fall back down to 9. Bang. Pick goes to the New York Knicks. So either way you look at it, just root for wins. Just the more wins that the Wizards pick up, the better it's going to be for us. And they don't need the 9th worst record, even though it is a top 8 protected pick. Even if they finish with the 5th worst record, which is very possible given the veterans they've got now. The lottery night's going to be crazy. So, great pickup from the Wiz. Now we have the New Orleans Pelicans on the board right now with pick 7. Keep the questions coming. Salute to Knicks Nation. The draft buzz is coming. Buzzer Beater says, I've noticed every NBA champ had at least 2 two-way guys. The team with the most two-way players wins. Take it for checking. Yeah, I think two-way players is key, but dribble, pass, shoot guys as well. I think those are the 2 things, fam. The start is to just not be a defensive liability. Like, just be playable on the defensive side. You know, you don't need to be no lockdown defender or, you know, pick up 5 stocks a game. Just hold your own, man. Stay in the weight room. And if you're switchable, that's a plus. But on offense, if you can dribble, pass, and shoot, and you don't look like a deer in the headlights when you have the basketball and you can make a play, not to throw my guy Josh Hart under the bus, but, you know, sometimes he just has a brain fart and leaves his feet and just throws the ball away. Somebody who's composed, can process what's happening at a fast speed, you know, not throw it away. Take care of the basketball, man, like it's your family jewels. Find your teammate, make the simple play. And I think Josh Hart really let us down in some of those late games, game 6 specifically. He was trying to thread the needle, you know. The key is against Indiana, anytime you've turned the ball over, it's going to end up in a bucket. They're just too quick. So you have to think twice. Whatever pass you make, whatever shot you take, whatever you decide to do with the basketball when you're playing against Indiana, it has to be a smart decision. Because a bounce pass, a tricky pass, turnover, bang, fast break the other way. An ill-advised shot, like campaign, banks off the rim, goes down the other way, Obi top and dunk. tough situation. So I think the Knicks they lost their cool. Yeah, Juan, I like the Al Horford move. I think that's in play. We had a report today that Al Horford's free agency market is robust, and I'm expecting, yeah, that to be true, fam. Um, Al Horford, Boston's made some moves to free up a little bit of cash, but he'll have a lot of suitors, man. LA are very interested. I think the Knicks with Karl Anthony Towns, those relationships would be interested as well. Yuri Ark says, I definitely don't think the Knicks do anything today, personally. I think it's 50-50. I could see something happening, I think. But definitely the extra night to have conversations with other GMs and knowing that we do have tomorrow, I think could, allow things to play out, man, at a more steady pace. So the New Orleans Pels are on the clock. What do they do, man? What's going to be the first major Shams bomb? Is it Zion Williamson gets traded to the Brooklyn Nets? Imagine that. Imagine with the Washington Wizards and the Brooklyn Nets cap space. I mean, that would be solid destinations to take a flyer on Zion, fam. I mean, if you're the Pelicans, man, I'd be happy to take all those picks off the Brooklyn Nets and send them Zion. Margaret, great to have you with us. Salute. Johnny says game 1 against Pacers will always be an asterisk to this season. Yeah, it'll always remind me of more so Thibodeau. I'm not going to lie. And look, the players deserve a lot of blame, but I just feel like that won't happen if a different coach was coaching us. It just wasn't his finest moment, man. To allow that to happen. I mean, he could have done so many things. He could have called a timeout after Neesmith drilled 3 threes. We still had a lead. I mean, how do you not call a timeout and change the personnel? Get Brunson off the floor. There's 1 minute 30 remaining. They don't need to be on the floor. Get them the heck off the floor. Because their defense stinks. And Neesmith hit 3 threes. You call a timeout and get defenders on the floor. It happened so quickly, and I just don't think that would have happened with a different coach. But the players do need to wear that loss as well. That definitely ended our season, and they'll think about it forever, fam. Once again, late game execution. We didn't practice enough. We didn't, for all the talk that Thibodeau was so prepared and all of those things. I mean, Deuce McBride spoke from the heart. Deuce McBride spoke to us about, some of the things we didn't do, left us exposed. We didn't practice late game scrimmage in training camp. So the New Orleans Pelicans with the 7th pick select Jeremiah Fears at number 7, right? The guard out of Oklahoma. So Jeremiah Fears. This is where things are getting real interesting now, because the talent for a lot of draft scouts, the tiers kind of have either ended, or this is the break right now with the Brooklyn Nets coming up. The Brooklyn Nets that hold 5 first-round picks, ladies and gentlemen. One at 8, 19, 26, 27. So yeah, 8, 19, 26, 27. Let's see what they do, and who's the next pick. So far, no major surprises. I guess the number 4, Con Kneppel, that one was kind of a sliding doors moment, but Ace Bailey was always going to fall if he wasn't selected by Philly. He didn't want to go to Charlotte. He didn't work out for them. He said no. He didn't want to go to Utah either. Danny Ainge doesn't give a crap. He does not give a crap, man. Danny Ainge took him. He might have to end up trading him in the future. Once you got these guys on the rookie contracts, it's okay. But after the rookie contract ends, we'll see what happens, man. Donovan Mitchell couldn't stay out there. Let's see what they do with Larry Markkinen. Colin Sexton's on the block. Jordan Clarkson, Walker Kessler, John Collins. I think there's going to be a blow up with Utah and some of their core. Johnny says no to Al Horford. He'll take Huck Porty's minutes. It'll definitely be a short-term thing with Al. You know, cup of coffee. J Dub says I think we'll end up with 2 second picks tomorrow. Yeah, so I feel like we'll definitely target our pick 50 to try to move up. Maybe use a future second and some cash. However, I think the Knicks might not care about keeping 50 as well because they could always find talent undrafted. Think about it. Between 50 and some of these guys that are going to go undrafted, you know, you could, you know, it's basically all in the same talent bracket. But what you can do is you can give them any kind of contract you want. You know, you can give them a fully non-guaranteed, you know, deal with options as an undrafted free agent. You know, you can give them multi-years. As a second round pick, unfortunately, you can only offer a 2-year deal, max. So there's restrictions that come with that. So if you're kind of late in the draft, guys, you know, your agent might convince teams to let you go undrafted. Or let's say, you know, it looks like San Antonio is about to pick you up and you're like, nah, I don't want to go to San Antonio, man. I want to go to New York. You might be like, yeah, just let me go undrafted, you know? And then you can land at the destination that you like. So the Brooklyn Nets coming up with pick 8. Jeremiah Fears headed out to New Orleans. So today we had Frank Isola report that Mikal Bridges and Mitchell Robinson have been in some trade discussions among other teams. So we haven't really heard concrete reports from other current beat writers. But I think the Knicks would be targeting rotation pieces plus financial flexibility plus potential future picks so that they can restock the cupboards in a potential Giannis trade. But if we would send Mitchell Robinson somewhere, I hope it's out west. You know, send him back home to New Orleans. Send him to Phoenix. Just don't send him anywhere out east. You know, that would be a fireable offense right now. What are your thoughts on that? AP, salute, says Nets are loaded courtesy of the New York Knicks. Not just the New York Knicks, don't forget, they did trade Kevin Durant back to the Phoenix Suns to get all of their own picks back. I think so. I think both were huge moves for the Brooklyn Nets. Yeah, the 5 picks for Mikal Bridges was good for them. But the Knicks are going to be great for the next 4 or 5 years. So those picks aren't going to be very good. The Phoenix Suns trade to send Kevin Durant back to Phoenix, that allowed Brooklyn to tank and officially get their own picks back, which allowed them, you know, to get good picks. The Knicks picks aren't going to be good. You know, the Knicks picks are not going to be good, fam. They're going to be, you know, 25, 20, 22, 28. The Phoenix Suns picks are the ones that they're going to want because that's a lotto ticket to the jackpot, fam. So we've got Darren Hood in the building and he is killing it with the picks. And we got the Brooklyn Nets selecting Igor Demon with the 8th pick. Is he Igor Demon or Igor Demon from BYU? So that's Brooklyn's pick, Igor Demon. Like I told y'all, there is a bit of a talent drop after this first half of the lottery. Joe says, I'd like to keep Mitch. Yeah, myself too. My only thing is, like, I understand their reasoning. Like, I understand if they were to move on from Mitch. You know, his stock is at an all-time high. And, I mean, there's teams all around the league tripping over themselves to get a Mitchell Robinson. Yeah, this might be the opportunity to fleece somebody, you know, like Phoenix, you know. Maybe you could get more picks in the future from other teams, you know, in a three-way. You know, one trade that I just hypothetically looked at, I haven't run it through the trade machine, but I think if you are sending Mitch to Phoenix, who I think would be one of his number one suitors, given that they're in the market for a starting center, is you would look at maybe a Ryan Dunn. You know, you get back a New York native, try to get you know, young wing under a rookie contract, cost controlled. You would be able to get what's his name, the center that they've got, Nick Richards. So you could get Ryan Dunn, Nick Richards, who would be able to eat up the center minutes, or, you know, provide some center minutes. And maybe you could try to get something else, you know, so that, one, they've got a couple of rotation players. You got a young player under a rookie contract for 4 more years. So that'll help you under the second apron. Mitchell Robinson's soon to be a free agent, so you're going to have to pay him a lot. Ryan Dunn provides defense, so you lose some defense with Mitch, but you get some wing defense and a guy that can switch. And you also get Nick Richards, who could you know, be a center as well. I don't know how the finances work with that. That would be one scenario I would look at if they have decided to move Mitch, but I would decide to keep him for now. Juan says, my belief on Zion, he never wanted to go to New Orleans. He never tried to excel on that team. He wanted to be a Knick. Yeah, you're right. You know, I don't know about the Knicks situation, but definitely he wasn't a fan of going to the Pelicans, man. And he's had a rough go, man, in New Orleans, off the court and on the court, man. But guess what? He's a millionaire, and he might not care as much. Margaret says Knicks need to keep Mitch. New York needs a center. There's just so many layers to it, you know. You're 100% correct. On the court and production-wise, Knicks need Mitchell Robinson. There's no denying that. Off the court now, there is other factors, like the second apron now, you know. You have to decide, you know, which players do you like the most, you know. If you want to pay Mitch free agency and you have to extend Mikal Bridges, you know, you're going to be living over the second apron, and that's cap hell, and that's financial restrictions, trade restrictions. You're putting your franchise in a hole. So while I understand, as us as fans, we love our players, we see value in them on the court, there's other scenarios that factor in as well. You know, I hope more players will take a discount. I really do hope that becomes a thing, because winning in New York City and winning with the New York Knicks would be like better than anywhere. You know, there's just no doubt about it. Like, look at Oklahoma's parade. Look at their championship celebrations. It's like they won a mid-season tournament. It didn't even feel like they accomplished anything. It's like, if the New York Knicks won a championship, your career, your legacy would be cemented. You know, you'd be a legend forever. and you would get endorsements. You would be in Knicks alumni. You know, James Dolan will be flying you in and out with a private jet, and your family. You'd be taken care of. You'd be a legend. All you have to do is be a veteran minimum guy on the New York Knicks winning championship team. There'll be no debate right now. Think about in 5 years from now, who's really going to think about the Oklahoma City Thunder's 25 championship with Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso and those guys, right? If the Knicks win a chip, it'll be remembered forever. Like, you know, people just won't forget. You know, just one, even if it's just one. And so, you know, a lot of these free agents have to wise up, man. What's the difference between earning $5 million in Milwaukee and taking a vet's minimum with the Knicks, where you have a chance to win, you have a chance to be taken care of by James Dolan, you have a chance to be a legend, and you have a chance to win as well. You know, like Juan says, you'd never have to pay for anything in New York, ever. You know, in terms of a meal. I mean, you got guys on, you know, what's his name? DeLon Wright's Instagram. You got Landry Shamet's Instagram. You know, all they did was have a nice little playoff run, and fans are like, please come back. You know. Buzzer says, CT, would you trade for Zion? Would I trade for Zion from Macau plus Deuce or Hart? Nah, I wouldn't, man. I've said this before, but I'm good on Zion. I'm just not a fan of the fit right now and where he's at. Like, he can't stay healthy with the massive contract. So I think that's one of the biggest things with Zion, you know. Your best ability is your availability right now. So we're waiting for the next pick. The Toronto Raptors. Is this where RJ Barrett gets traded? We'll find out. But Igor Demon. So the Toronto Raptors are selecting CMB, Colin Murray Boyles, fam, with the 9th pick. Colin Murray Boyles is headed to the Raps. What do y'all think? I'll tell you what, Shams is getting trumped quite a lot. So Shams has only predicted or tweeted out the 1st pick, the 3rd pick, the 4th, and the 5th. And that's it. Obviously, he's got a lot of commitments, man. His phone's buzzing right now. He's on the broadcast. But obviously, it was all about Cooper Flagg with this situation going number 1, and we knew. Let's see what the Chicago Bulls have coming up. We've got the Houston Rockets, number 10. Just feeding through the timeline right now. So the CA connections are legit. Jamira Watkins reports that the Knicks will target him. His agent is Sam Rose, Leon Rose's son. And we know the last prospect that we picked up that had Leon's son as his rep, which was Obi Toppin. Fam. Colin Murray Boyles headed to the 6. If Zion came to New York, he would keep himself injury-free and in shape. I think there's doubts. I think it's not just his will; it's just his body right now. You know, he's a very unique player that, you know, with his hops and athleticism, with that extra weight that he's carrying, like that's a nasty injury waiting to happen. And his hamstrings and everything just seems to be given up right now. Let him play 2 full seasons in a row, uninterrupted, with no injuries and at a high level, then I'll enter the conversation, for a potential Zion trade. Potential. But until he plays a full season, multiple full seasons at a high level with no injuries, then I think there's other things to look at, other options. We just got to keep hitting draft picks as well. We've got the core. We've got our guys. And it's a great group of guys, man. Better coaching and we would be in the NBA Finals, right? And look how shaky Oklahoma did look at times, I do have to eat some crow because I think after the conference finals, I didn't think the Pacers or the Knicks would have had much of a chance, but I was wrong. They did have a great chance. So if the Knicks had made the finals, this team could have won a championship. Think about it. Landry Shamet, Deuce McBride, DeLon Wright. I mean, these aren't flashy names. OG, Cat, Mitch, Brunson. These guys on screen were 6 wins away from being an NBA champion. So I don't think we need to, to pull off a swing like Zion right now, personally. But I do trust the front office will look at, a move if it makes sense, even if it is a major move and it makes more sense. I do think that they will look at it, whether it's Cat, McCall. I do think they're just going to wait for Giannis right now. That, to me, that makes the most sense, If you are going to shake things up before Giannis has made a decision, that's malpractice. That's front office malpractice, You have to wait to see what Giannis is going to do. In case, like I said, let's say he puts you on his list and you're left with no assets, then you're in real trouble right now. So Zion's the afterthought. We're looking at Giannis right now. We'll see what plays out. But don't look past Miami. Miami might be looking to, put some guys out there. Bam Adebayo is a guy I'm looking at. Talk about a switchable big man that could play next to Karl Anthony Towns. What would y'all think about a Bam Adebayo pickup if Miami was to look at getting spicy? Like Buzzer said earlier, two-way players. Zion ain't a two-way player either. Pacers stink. What's good? Can the Knicks draft a coach in the second round? If Jason Kidd was in the second round, they would draft. Right now, they've got their choice between Brown. They've got the choice between Borrego, Jenkins, and what's his name, Nori. Yesterday's update, but I think it's going to be one of those guys. If there was a bigger name, they would have interviewed them already. So I feel like it's going to be between those 4 guys, but they will conduct some more interviews. They want it to look like that there's going to be, a wider search. Johnny Bryant will probably get an interview. We'll see what plays out. The timeline's going crazy right now with all of the shake-ups. But really, nothing's been major for me. I really feel like outside of the Ace Bailey situation, it's just going according to script. Juan says, I kind of believe that the Knicks fully healthy in the playoffs would have won the chip last season. Yeah, that's a great call. I think different kind of team, but if Julius and Bogdanovich and Mitch and also OG Game 7, who else was missing? We had so many injuries. Whoever was missing, we definitely could have gone on to the third round and maybe upset Boston, and then Dallas. That's the thing. Last season, it was weaker on the West side. Um, so Carmen Malawach is headed to Phoenix. So yes, this is the spot where Phoenix is picking up, right? Let me. So it's a pick from Phoenix via Brooklyn. Okay, now I get it, fam. Let me switch this over to ESPN. So this pick going to the Rockets from Phoenix via Brooklyn. See, this is where a talent series drops off, in my opinion. Carmen Malawach is still a project. And look, pick 10. We've been in that situation before, man. Trying to pick between Obi Toppin, Devin Vassell, Kevin Knox. This is that range where you're like, you need to hit. Obviously, we didn't hit on SGA. A lot of teams didn't hit on Devin Booker at 13. This is the thing where it separates a front office between being okay and being great. As you go further down the lottery. So, but look, good upside swing for that team, Phoenix, picking up Malawach out of Sudan. What is he, like 18, coming out of Duke as well. So that's the pick number 10, man. We're getting through it. We're almost halfway through the first round, and in the second back end of the lottery right now. There will be a lot more wheeling and dealing, guys. I feel like after the lottery, where teams will be like, yeah, let's move down, let's pick up some assets. We'll see who's going to be there, fam. But yeah, Kevin Knox, buzzer. We should have picked up SGA. We scouted Kentucky, and we missed out on SGA. Also, so many other picks. I think Obi would have turned out. He would have got more opportunity under a different coach. But at the end of the day, Obi's a nice starter. He's not. I don't think he has the all-star ceiling that many people talked about. A solid starter, and that's okay. For a first-round pick. The issue was we weren't losing enough games to really move up. In the draft. That's why a lot of these teams just be staying in purgatory, man. Look at how many more years are the Charlotte Hornets just going to continue to pick around the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 range. The Brooklyn Nets, yeah, they've got those 5 picks from Mikal, but like I said, they're going to be all, bad picks from the Knicks. The only good picks that the Brooklyn Nets are going to get are their own picks. Philadelphia, good luck to them. How are they going to end up in the lottery again when Embiid and Maxey and guys like McCain and Quentin Grimes get healthy and play more games, So I think they've missed the boat. They're going to have to retool. Look, the Spurs, they've obviously got Wemby. They're not going to be picking this high up for very long. So yeah, on the conversation about expansion right now, I feel like it's a situation where more teams are going to come in, more teams are just going to have to tank. Like there's only one winner. If they bring in Seattle, they bring in Vegas, that's 32 teams we're talking about now, guys. The NBA is just about making money. They're bringing in these in-season tournaments so that teams can actually win something. Because if 1 out of 32 teams can win the chip, it gets frustrating for fans, if they don't have a chance to win in 30, 40, 50 years. And the NBA is just going to bring in more teams. So let us know your honest thoughts about expansion, guys. I understand from James Dolan's perspective, he doesn't want the revenue to keep getting shared evenly because the New York Knicks are a major market team and we bring in a lot more revenue than a Memphis Grizzlies, than a Phoenix Suns who, have a broadcast deal where they broadcast their games for free. The Portland Trail Blazers. From Dolan's perspective, he doesn't want to distribute the revenue evenly because a lot of these teams aren't bringing anything to the table. And why he's voting against expansion is you got Seattle coming in, you got Vegas coming in. The revenue is just going to get split even more. And then what? You got more teams that you got to compete against. Lakers for life. What's good? I'm doing well, fam. Great to see you. Kevin Knox still with the Golden State Warriors, fam. I think he's on a two-way. Yeah, the problem with Knox was he was just so young, but the problem was NIL. Well, there was under the table deals, but yeah, NIL wasn't official. So I feel like Kevin Knox could or should be part of the lawsuit because he should have been staying in Kentucky for a couple more seasons, fleshed out his game, got paid, and come back into the NBA, come into the NBA more polished. The reason Kevin Knox's career is flamed out is because he was selected too early, he was selected too high, and he wasn't ready. And he's got passed around the league. Teams want to bring in new young talent to tank, or they want to win. And Kevin Knox came in as the youngest prospect, 18. He was skinny. He wasn't ready to help a team win. And he wasn't able to stay in college and make a bag. If Kevin Knox was coming out this season, he definitely would have stayed in school, in my opinion, because he would have got paid a boatload more money with the NIL in Kentucky versus coming into the league under the first round pick. D. Linder says, how don't you know this pick was part of the Durant trade that he is going to the Suns? So my apologies, fam. There's been so many trades come through the pipe. Yes, it's a little confusing to me here saying why there's still the Houston Rockets logo. If that trade happened days ago, ESPN really should have updated the Phoenix Suns logo there. But yeah, they've officially updated this now, actually. Player rights traded to Phoenix. Now, the 11th pick is Cedric Coward, headed to the Portland Trail Blazers. So Portland make their pick, Cedric Coward, a forward out of WSU. And we continue to roll through the first round, pick 11 now. Portland obviously been wheeling and dealing, getting rid of Anthony Simons, bringing in a defensive guard, and they select Cedric Coward, the forward. That's a situation where they're trying to get tap into their defensive identity right now. But we'll see what happens with Drew Holiday. He's 36 now. He really surprised me in the playoffs how inefficient he was, and he's a guy who I think definitely needs a minutes reduction. Maybe that can prolong his career a bit more. A heavy minute starter on a championship level team is definitely not it, I think. But financially, it was a tough contract for Boston to keep around. The 11th pick is headed to Memphis, says Darren. So let's confirm. Yeah, the Portland Trail Blazers will trade Cedric Coward at the number 11 spot to the Memphis Grizzlies. Wow. So that's a major pickup and trade to Memphis, getting Cedric Coward as a possible Desmond Bane replacement. I see the vision. I see what they're trying to do. Let's see what else that Portland have picked up. We've got the Bulls next up. Buzzer says Seattle and Vegas are the two most obvious. Don't forget about Pittsburgh. But the franchise in other major sports, former ABA team, Pittsburgh as well. Yeah, like who knows how far it's going to go. I mean, how many teams do you see coming in? Let me know. Do they break up the conferences and make it into 4 conferences now? Do they just scrap divisions and make 4 conferences? I feel like there's definitely going to be 3 conferences at some point. The Charlotte Hornets are trading Mark Williams to the Suns for the 29 tonight and the 2029 first round pick. So yeah, the Charlotte Hornets, that's a good trade for them. That's a good trade for Phoenix to get the center that they're looking for. We'll see if that trade can get verified with the medicals. Obviously, with Mark Williams getting that trade getting rescinded last time. Hopefully, all is well with him and the medicals. Phoenix address what they need, and obviously Charlotte can get some picks back. That obviously the writing was on the wall when they already traded Mark Williams. They were looking to move him on. How do I feel about the KD trade? I feel like it's a good trade for the Rockets to try to go for it right now, but I really don't feel like it's a guarantee. I don't feel like it's definitely going to make them better than OKC. I feel like, look, the Lakers are going to be around, the Denver Nuggets will be around. I feel like the Rockets will miss some depth in, Dillon Brooks. Jalen Green did a lot of ball handling. So I feel like it has the opportunity to go both ways. It could be a real win for Houston. But I feel like, as I learned this season, when the Knicks traded Dante and Julius Randle for Cat's the better player out of the 3, but you can miss the depth aspect when you do a 2-for-1. In my opinion. And so we'll see how much better it makes the Rockets. Late in games and that, it's going to be, good for them to have a bucket getter like KD. But if he's not durable or he can't stay healthy, I think they'll miss Dillon Brooks, Jalen Green. I think Houston Rockets fans won't say that now because they're obviously high on their new acquisition. But as the season goes along, you do miss some of those former players that you had, or you learn to appreciate what they did. Dillon Brooks did a lot of heavy lifting for the Rockets. Jalen Green, I know he was sporadic up and down, but he obviously did a lot of had a lot of usage as well. As Brooklyn Buddha confirms, the Durant trade can't be officially consummated until July 6th. So it has the possibilities to be expanded. We'll see what happens when the rest plays out. I mean, I feel like they've got to bring these dates forward, fam. When a trade's done, just allow it to happen. Allow it to get confirmed. I feel like with that Mark Williams one, that's bad for both teams. It was bad for Dalton Connect. It was a bad look. Giving these opportunities for the trade to fall apart. With the 12th pick, the Chicago Bulls are selecting Noah Asenge with the draft number 12 spot. What do you guys think about that? The Chicago Bulls. We'll see if they keep that pick. Paul is in the building. Great to see you. Yeah, AP about Kevin Knox. So one of the prime examples with the Kevin Knox situation, you don't put too much stock in workouts. It was the late workout where Kevin Knox probably had one of the greatest workouts you'll ever see, or those executives will ever see, and he deserves credit for that. But you can't put too much stock in one workout. You have to look at the greater body of work, and I think the Kevin Knox workout put him over the top. And the Knicks Fizdale and it was Scott Perry and those guys just fell in love with Kevin Knox, man. Buzzer, which center are you referring to? Mark Williams, the one they just picked up, is going to replace Nick Richards, maybe. Maybe they keep him as the backup. The thing is, the Suns were looking for center depth, so I don't know if they're looking to shed any more centers. I think they're trying to address that need. Looks like the Grizzlies have made a trade with, yep, the pick obviously with the Blazers. They're sending number 16 and the 2028 first round pick via Orlando and 2 seconds to the Blazers for Coward. So okay, so yeah, all the Grizzlies have done is they've moved up from 16 to 11, and they've given the Blazers 16, and the Blazers pick up a 2028 first via Orlando and 2 seconds as well. So with a lot of things in flux with Memphis, they took a gamble. They wanted to move up and get Coward, and Portland are happy to kick the tires a little bit, kick the can down the road. Yeah, Kevin Knox had one amazing game, fam, against West Virginia, where he put up 30, and that kind of put him really on the Knicks' radar. And look, sometimes you can flame out because Knox was very young, and when you buy into the upside of a player, I get it. You understand that they're not exactly the finished product. You know that they're not what you need right now. But if you can grab Kevin Knox where they got him, they obviously believe that he was going to grow and develop into something special. It just didn't happen. The environment wasn't right either, but it was too much of a gamble. That was the issue. SGA showcased a higher floor in college, and a high ceiling as well. But that's the thing, when you're 18, you're fresh and you're raw. It's so much of a gamble right now. That's what picking in the lottery is basically. It's a crapshoot for some of these guys, but you have to really do the homework. So the Chicago Bulls pick up the forward Noah Asenge, and we have the Atlanta Hawks on the block, or is this the Sacramento Kings pick? Yeah, so this looks like it's the Hawks coming from Sacramento. Okay, so there's been a major trade drop, and the Atlanta Hawks, they're trading the 13th pick to the New Orleans Pelicans for the 23 pick tonight and an unprotected 2026 first. The most favorable out of New Orleans or Milwaukee in 2026 next season. My goodness. So the New Orleans Pelicans are trying to move up. They're banking on getting someone that they want right now. And the Atlanta Hawks are cashing in, moving down from 13 to 26. And they're pocketing another first next season. So that's great work from the ATL, in my opinion. I really like what Atlanta's been doing, getting Kristaps on the cheap, while getting another pick, getting a pick tonight and getting another one and giving up 13. Because I tell you why, from 13 to 23, it's just all about who you like. There's only 10 spots. You know, it's the talent is there. It's just who you like at that point. Um, so what did I say earlier? We're going to see a lot more trades, guys moving back out of the spots that they're in right now. If a guy's not there that they like, they'll move back, pick up another asset. Please, New York Knicks, get active, get busy right now. We have 7 future seconds. I know we can't trade a first right now because of the other 5 that we traded for Macau. We have to wait a little bit, but we can trade seconds. We can trade some of these seconds. Hopefully we can move up in tomorrow's second round. The New Orleans Pelicans, they're trading up to select Derek Queen out of Maryland. So I like that fit. New Orleans guy is Derek Queen out of Maryland. So, look, New Orleans, they're making their move. They're giving up a pick next season. They're trying to get a guy that they feel like fits their culture, feel like a guy that they can build with and build around. And I think Derek Queen, high upside swing. They give up a pick next season, and the Hawks move down 10 spots, collecting some assets as well. Where do y'all stand with the Atlanta Hawks? I'm not sold that Trae Young is going to help them. I'm not sold that Trae Young is going to take them where they want to go. I think they cashed in with Dyson Daniels, Reese Shea and Jalen Johnson. I just don't see it with Trae Young, man. Too many flaws. You got to surround him with guys, which is what they're trying to do. But ultimately, I think they'd get wrecked, in high leverage situations in the Eastern Conference Finals, NBA Finals, if they got there. AP says Scott Perry, Steve Smith, David Fizdale were the 3 Stooges. Paula says both Knox and Frank needed to be in the G, developing. A lot of the issues now you see a lot of these teams facing, how much young talent can you stack together, and some of it's going to work, some of it's not. You're going to lose a lot of games, but are you going to get better? Like, losing is fine, but are you getting better every year? Are you developing good habits? Are you putting good veterans around these guys to become good pros, or are they just kicking it in the clubs? Happy to cash in. Are they really caring about winning? All of those things. The thing I'm looking at is, like, you can only be in the lottery for so long before you got to make improvement. Are you continuously picking in the lottery, or are you clawing your way out of it? Like a good example is, Orlando. Yeah, it took them a while. They were stuck in the lottery for quite a bit. Eventually, they hit. They got some picks, got some good young defenders, culture guys, Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, Paolo, and now they're trying to go for it. Some of these other guys hopefully will try to follow that blueprint. Some teams in purgatory, the Raptors, the Bulls, like, they're winning too much, but they're not winning enough. That's a tough spot to get out of. You have to hit the flush button and reset, I feel like, for some of these guys. But I don't know if they can do that in Toronto because of, Masai Ujiri. They're in a different country. They can't really sign free agents. They got to go for the Brandon Ingrams. Is there a player that I'm surprised has fallen in the draft that is still available? Great comment, man. Great question. Let me just click over to best available. Not overly surprising, I'll be honest, fam. It hasn't been too crazy. I could have seen maybe Yarkantunis go a little higher. I could have seen maybe Neat Clifford. Maybe Neat Clifford go up a little bit more. But yeah, not so far. But keep a hold of that thought. The next pick is on the clock with the San Antonio Spurs. Let's see what they do with this pick. This is coming from ATL. What do you guys think about the 2-day format? Is it too slow for y'all? Do you feel like it's perfect because it allows, more movement, front offices to call each other for tomorrow, make some other moves? I'm glad it doesn't finish too late, I guess. 2 rounds, you're up until like 1 a.m. Players are still sitting there in the crowd waiting to hear their name, get selected with their families. I think it's okay, the two-day situation. It's certainly increased the activity with these moves, people moving up, moving back down, but nothing crazy in terms of player trades yet, so far. So the Spurs will select Carter Bryant with the 14th pick. So where was Carter Bryant on the best available? He was number 2, coming out of Arizona, the forward. So maybe that means that they're looking to move on from maybe a Devin Vassell. Maybe they're going to see if a guy like, who else have they got in their front court? Jeremy Sohan. Looks like they want to keep him. But Carter Bryant headed out to San Antonio. Where are we at here with the draft class? Draft cast. Okay, looks like they've refreshed their options. This is better, much better. We've got OKC next up on the clock. Yeah, the league is becoming so much more international, fam. It's made so much in terms of, kids growing up, watching the NBA, idolizing these heroes. They grow up, they're playing in the backyard, they're trying to replicate what they see. I mean, basketball's always been a global sport, but it's just, I guess, become more commercialized, more, opportunities, endorsements. Leagues around the world are growing as well. The NBL is a viable option for next stars, people that don't want to go the college route, like LaMelo, Josh Giddey going the NBL, veterans that come down here want to earn a bag, feed their families. You got, teams out in Europe, China. I mean, Hansen Yang, a big Chinese prospect, will probably get drafted tomorrow. That's a significant change. We haven't had a big Chinese prospect, man, since Li Jing Liao, I think. Looks like Vasily Micic, the veteran point guard from the Hornets, is part of the Mark Williams deal to go to Phoenix. So yeah, he's 33 now. Yeah, he's more of, I think, salary filling. Can we make sense of the Drew Anthony trade? Yeah, so from the Blazers' perspective, they paid Anthony Simons handsomely. It hasn't worked out for them. He's a bucket getter, but there's a glut. There's a glut that, they have in that spot with Shadon Sharp, Scoot Henderson, couple of guys. So Houston were happy to make, Blazers were happy to make Simons surplus to get out of that money. I think get out of that log jam and get out of that money and turn him into another piece. Now, it's not the most desirable piece, but Drew Holiday could help with their culture. He could help them defensively as well. Strengthens one of their weaknesses, fam. Anthony Simons is uh, a negative defensively. Drew Holiday is going to improve their defense. From the Boston Celtics side, it's purely financial, but also getting out from Drew and his contract, and he's aging right now. Paula says, I remember when people were saying that the world won't catch up in basketball. Look what's happening now with the world's talent has caught up big time. It was just a case of kids getting opportunities at a younger age, in leagues overseas, development programs getting better, coaches getting better. But for me, for the most part, I feel like Olympics is obviously a big thing for overseas players. But yeah, the big thing is the spotlight, the opportunities to get drafted. Certain players pave the way. Like, I date back to when, Andrew Bogut from Australia was the first overall pick. That said to every kid growing up in Australia that I can be the number one pick one day, and I'm not from the US. You go even earlier than that, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, I can become a dynasty with an NBA franchise coming from France. And then these kids growing up, monkey see, monkey do. They see what they can achieve, and and it becomes possible. So Oklahoma, the pick is in, ladies and gentlemen. The pick is in. We've got OKC on the clock, and let's confirm what's up with this one. Man, the timeline's crazy right now. Now, maybe the pick's not in. We're still waiting. Okay, let's switch it back to this one. So Carter Bryant picked up at pick 14. Sam Presti, pick 15. Anything can happen with this one. AP's not a fan of Adam Silver, says he's bad for the league. There's some good and some bad, but I think, he was... Like, I think the play-in situation's okay. In-season tournament, I think, is okay, but... some of the other things, not so much. I think the whole empowering and strengthening small market teams, that mindset is stupid for me. Your big market teams are your brand. I think it's cute that small market teams can win and can dominate. Like, I'm not anti small market teams, but I think Adam Silver's too far the other way, where he's empowering San Antonio's, OKCs and all these, franchises, and, making things more difficult for the bigger market teams, with ratings, with fans over the world. They all want to see the big market teams, the big market teams. That is what it is. It'll never change, right? Look at the ratings for OKC in Indiana versus some of the major teams, major market teams. It changes heaps. See, I'm not surprised Sam Presti's taking his time with this one. He's probably doing a million cap gymnastics. The pick is in, and OKC will select Thomas Sorber with the 15th pick. So on the best available, Thomas Sorber out of Georgetown was the third best available talent according to ESPN's big board. What are your thoughts about that? You've got the French prospect still on the board, and Yarkin Tunis from Illinois. At the guard spot, Liam McNeely still on the board, Jace Richardson, Nick Clifford, Asa Newell. You got the Spanish prospect Hugo Gonzalez and another French prospect, Nolan Traore. Still on the board, Maxime Reynaud. I know a lot of people are high on his upside. Walter Clayton, I'm high on him. Out of the Florida Gators, the championship winning team. Walter Clayton, big shot player. Let's see, man. We're getting closer to the second round tomorrow. Going to have some fun, but hopefully we get a move. Hopefully we get a move today. I would love to find out the Knicks moving up. We should see some more activity, definitely later in this first round. Buzzer beaters feels like always have said that the commissioner should be in a neutral position, not the mouthpiece for the owners. Yep, so looking out for the league's best interests is Silver. Margaret says OKC should not be in the lottery. I mean, that's the rich get richer. Yeah, it just goes back to that trade was so one-sided, the Paul George one. And obviously at the time it was, SGA had potential and all of that, but it's just once in a lifetime, once in a generation, does a trade become so lopsided that it allows one franchise to benefit for a whole couple of decades, even half a generation. I mean, San Antonio earlier as well, with David Robinson and then Sean Elliott, then turning it to Tim Duncan, Parker, Ginobili, then turning that over to Wembanyama now. I mean, there's no gap. It's insane. And then Oklahoma, they're going to be competitive for like the next decades. Paula says the NBA chip was on and no one was talking about it, and that's not good for the league. And Juan V says the league is so one-sided. Knicks get ramboozled on every trade they make. It's crazy. It's professionals, competing against each other, front offices included. Front offices can destroy another front office. Look at some of these trades, man, that have gone down. That Luka trade. I mean, Dallas got lucky. Let's be real. If Dallas didn't win the lottery and get Cooper Flag, I mean, Nico would have got fired eventually. Stuff would have hit the fan. Eventually, the fans would have rioted, protested, and he would have been out of there. But they lucked up. They won the lottery, and here we are. So I don't know the full numbers, fam, but I just know that the finals, it was one of the worst rated finals, I think, overall for like the last sort of 8 years, 6 to 8 years, is what I read. But I just do know, the Eastern Conference Finals, when the Knicks were in it, it was like one of the highest rated Eastern Conference Finals going back since like 2018. When you had like the Heat versus the Celtics. So yeah, the Lakers, the Knicks, they bring the ratings, no doubt. But my thing is the NBA is just about expansion for their own gain, for money. They're about money. Why else would you need to bring in more teams? New Mexico, Seattle, Vegas, or whoever else. It's just to bring more money in. You know, what's going to happen to the actual product, right? If only one team out of 33, 40, 34 teams can win something, what are the other teams going to be doing? A lot of them are going to be tanking, which is going to destroy the product. The more teams that have the chance to win something, they're going to go all in, and you're going to get a very competitive product. Because they feel like they have a chance. You have a chance. You have like a 1 in 8 chance. You have a 1 in 3 chance. If you've got 35 team league, only one team can win it. A lot of teams are going to go, you know what? We've got 13 teams ahead of us. We got no chance. Let's just go the other way. And they're filled with kids losing games, and the product, the ratings will suffer. So you need a balance. That's all I'm saying. There's always going to be losing and tanking and that, but you just need a balance. And I just don't know how much better the league can get by increasing the teams. 30, 32 teams soon. I just don't know, man. You've already got so many of these washed up franchises, like the Brooklyn Nets. They're a joke. New Orleans Pelicans, I think they're a joke. Memphis Grizzlies, if they didn't get Ja Morant, they'd be a joke. Charlotte Hornets, nice market in Charlotte, but they've been a joke as well. So next up, we'll obviously have the pick coming through from Orlando at 16. Let's see what plays out, fam. So yeah, the Memphis pick from Orlando in the Desmond Bane trade. Paula says, yeah, watered down league. That's what's going to happen. Facts. Yeah, more watered down. More watered down league. I guess the best way to counter that is just to make each team have a certain amount of veterans. Make sure that these veterans don't get squeezed out the league, so that they can help teams try to win. Like maybe only allow teams to roster 5 guys that are under the age of 22. So you can't have any more than 4 or 5 guys that are under the age of 22, 23, and the rest need to be more veterans. And the other kids can stay in college a bit more and work on their games. What do you guys think about that? Putting a restriction on some of the younger guys so that, teams got to play some of these other guys. Juan says Flag will have time to adjust with Kyrie and AD there already. Yeah, perfect situation. Like a couple of Hall of Famers and veterans there to play with. But the fact that Cooper Flag is so ready to contribute now is great. That's great. And all I'm saying is if a prospect's not ready, I think they should just stay in college and earn the NIL. Come pro when you're ready, and make the league better. Know that you can contribute and you're not just, sitting there taking losses all the time. The Memphis Grizz have taken a swing. Wow. And have selected Hanson Yang. The pick is being traded to the Blazers as part of the Cedric Coward deal earlier. That's right. So that's the first Major surprise for me, fam. There was buzz that Hanson Yang had some fans, but at pick 16, that's a flyer. That's a big swing. What do you guys think about that? Hanson Yang, a good post-up game, questions over his mobility defensively. However, he is a guy that can contribute offensively. Good passing skills. But yeah, the big man out of China is going to be put to the test on the defensive side. We'll see how that works out. But that is obviously picked by Memphis and is getting sent out to Portland as part of the Cedric Coward deal. So what are Portland going to do? They've got Donovan Klingon, Kling Kong, they call him. And this situation is interesting with Chauncey Billups. They're high on him and what he's building out in Portland. Mikey Williams doesn't. You might have to refresh my memory with Mikey Williams. Doesn't stick out to me. So we got Minnesota up next at 17, and this one is from Detroit via our New York Knicks. So pick 17. Russell, salute. We are outside of the lottery right now, and the first big surprise is Hanson Yang. He was projected to go mid-second round, early second round, but they've taken a major swing on the big man from China with a post-up game and some offensive skill set. A lot of commentary coming through with the surprise of the Hanson Yang pickup. How is he going to fit with Scoot Henderson and co? We'll see what plays out. But yeah, that was definitely a pick from left field. Rafael Barlow, James Barlow of NBA Big Board, those guys have been big fans of Hanson Yang. Rafael says, we've been driving the Hanson Yang hype train for a year now, but didn't see this. This could be shades of last season with AJ Johnson, man, climbing up from the second round all the way to pick 23, I believe, by the Milwaukee Bucks. To me, that's similar in terms of taking that big swing on a guy. But hey, if that's your guy, as pick 17 has come in, and yeah, one of the best available players, Joan Berenger from France, is now headed to the Minnesota Timberwolves with pick 17. So we look at the best available now. Yakin Tunis is still there at Illinois. Surely he has to go next up. But yeah, Berenger was right there, and he's headed out to Minnesota. We're inching closer to the Wizards' next pick with pick 18, fam. And then we're in the home straight, almost, over the 20 point. We're streaming live, YouTube and X right now. This is fun, man. A little quiet on the movements front with players, but with this situation, I like to see teams take a gamble, move up, try to get your guy. Maybe they heard that one of the other teams like Hanson Yang, and you just can't risk losing out on the guy that you want to get. You know, that's the thing about this thing. It's kind of like a silent auction. You put in the price that you're willing to pay, and you go get what you want to get. Otherwise, you know, you might miss out. And then what? Then you have regret. But having said that, this is a big jump, to get up. Yeah, Berenjay was a late starter with basketball. Another risk with that situation, but obviously with that comes high upside. Um, what do you guys think so far? Grade the draft. What do you think of it so far? We've got a couple more picks from Brooklyn to come up. 3 more to come up. They're going to have to do something. Maybe they're just going to pick a starting 5 in all different positions with their picks. Maybe they'll trade a couple and consolidate. What else do we have? We've got the Jazz on the clock coming up. The Miami Heat, I believe, will be their first selection coming from Golden State in the Jimmy Butler deal. That'll be interesting, man. What's Grandpa Pop's Pat Riley got up his sleeve, man? He's been quiet on the front. Missed out on Kevin Durant. Didn't want to part with anything major. Andrew Wiggins reports that he's going to be on the block, headed to maybe LA. Looks like LA are interested in Andrew Wiggins. Fam, I think when we get to Miami, it's going to tell us kind of what direction they're going to do. Are they going to trade this out, try to get a vet? Are they going to take a player that's in the position of one of their current vets? It's going to be interesting to see what Miami are doing right now. They've never bottomed out, really. Miami have always been like, we'll just quickly retool. We lose Jimmy Butler, but we underachieve this season. Very fascinating right now. The East is very wide open. I mean, you got to think that Pat Riley's thinking, I'm a move away from making noise in the East, because that's how Pat thinks. That's how Pat Riley thinks. He's like, I'm 1 player away, and we can be back in this. With how weak the East is, I don't blame him. But definitely you got to hit on the right guy. I mean, I'll be surprised if they trade Bam. I do think Bam's such a versatile guy that you can play 4, 5. You can fit players around him. Now he doesn't light you up offensively. He doesn't do enough offensively, but he plays both sides. So, you do need a lot more talent around him. I think that's where they're stuck right now. I mean, Bam and Jimmy were kind of the perfect complementary, Bam by himself, it's like, it's missing. Tyler Hero obviously gets eaten up defensively. Brooklyn's rebuilding, Margaret. Yeah, they've got all those picks. Let's see if they can get RJ. That'll be crazy. Buzzer says Mikey Williams. He was the top-ranked player coming out of high school, a projected can't-miss first-round pick. He was one of the first players to benefit from the NIL. He believed his press clippings, but fell off. That's a shame, man, if that's the case. I haven't followed his rise, maybe as much as I should have. But yeah, for every player that makes it, there's a cautionary tale as well, unfortunately. It is cutthroat, believing in your own hype at a young age. You just have to just get in the gym, continue to work hard, stay out of trouble, get in the right situations. I hope it works out for Ace Bailey. I think that might be the story of the first round right now, guys. If I'm choosing a headline, it's obviously Cooper Flagg is an afterthought. We already know that was going to happen. Dylan Harper as well. I guess, yeah, VJ Edgecombe to Philly. That's very, very interesting. They stayed clear of Ace Bailey. Con Kneppel was a surprise going to Charlotte. But Ace Bailey, the uncertainty where he was going to land, his representatives were trying to steer him to a certain location. Doesn't appear to have worked out. I think he warned Utah not to select him, or kind of put that message out there. But there he is, gone to Utah. Hopefully that works out, but we'll find out, man, in no time. Yeah, Russell says they don't use Bam, right? And Bam should be a 25 and 10 every night. He's got a good post game, front facing, got the mid range. Yeah, the 2-man game, him, Tyler Hero. It's solid. It just, you got to be better than that. They need some more juice right now. I like Davian Mitchell. They lost a couple of free agents. That was tough for them. They had Strauss. He balled out against us, and then he hit free agency. Gabe Vincent balled out against us. He hit free agency. Then they had Caleb Martin, who they got a kind of like a 1-season wonder out of him. Yeah, so Yarkin Tunis right now has to be a target for some teams to try to move up. We'll see how that plays out. So people weighing in on the Portland situation. They drafted Donovan Clingan last year and decided, you know what? Let's draft another 7-2 guy with Hansen Yang. Don't know if that's good or bad for their process. Two different kind of players. One's offensively minded, one's defensively minded. Do they try to play those two together? I don't know. Shez V, salute. Great to see you. Yeah, Russell, I think the Lakers and Miami are looking at a Wiggins trade. That was reported. I'm surprised we haven't had enough player trades. Maybe that's going to pop tomorrow night. Maybe tomorrow night in the second round, when all of the teams in the first round have already chilled, they've got their picks out, and the second round guys can step up. Maybe the other teams are going to start to wheel and deal. Maybe tomorrow night is going to be more popping. Some people are high on the OKC pickup for Thomas Sorber with the 15th pick. Our guy, Isaiah Hartenstein, ends up with the ring, ended up with the bag. First season in OKC with a ring. But like I said before, man, how much is that going to mean on his legacy? Or how much is that going to be remembered? With Oklahoma right now. Their parade was crazy. It was, pretty small. No shade. I know it's Oklahoma City, but let's be real. People only go there for the bag. Okay, Walter Clayton. Now we're talking. I like that. Walter Clayton, good pickup. Good pickup at 18. The Wizards are getting number 21 from the Utah Jazz and multiple second round picks for number 18 to select Clayton. So Clayton will be headed to the Utah Jazz, and the Wizards will be getting number 21 from Utah and multiple seconds. Okay. So the Wiz have got a lot of veterans. They've got a lot of young players. They're trading out of 18 and getting a couple more seconds to move down to 21. I think that's a fair trade for both of these guys. I would have loved to see Walter Clayton with the Wiz, though. I want Wiz to try to win some more games. We already know that the Knicks have their top 8 protected pick next season. But as I mentioned earlier, they don't need to have the 9th worst record. They can finish with the 8th, 7th, 6th worst record and fall down in the lottery. and send that pick over to us at the Knicks. So a lot of things are in flux, but you know, I like the fact that the Wizards have a lot of veterans. They got rid of Jordan Poole though, but I do think they've got Marcus Smart, Kelly Olynyk is good. Let's see if Middleton can be healthy. They've obviously got some other guys that they picked up in their recent moves. The other major name I'm missing right now, yeah, they got Smart, Middleton, and they got Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon's another one. Yeah, see that's the thing. Like I can't like with Isaiah's decision and going to go to OKC. Like he went to a winning team. They won the chip, but he got paid a little bit more. But maybe I'm just only speaking from a Knicks fan's perspective. But like the Knicks could have still paid Isaiah a pretty decent, contract. It wasn't like chump change. We were able to give him a $72 million deal. Instead he took an 80-something million dollar deal with 1 year less. But the point of the story is that you stay in New York City and you win a championship, you're set for life. James Dolan, you'll be Knicks alumni, you'll be courtside for the rest of your life to be a champion and win a chip with New York. You take a little bit more money, well, a sizable amount of money, you go to OKC, you win a championship, you'll just be a number. You'll just be a cautionary forgotten tale, winning over there. And, you could have had more than that, by staying in New York City and winning here. So I know the money was a major factor, but like I said, the Knicks could have still paid him a $72 million deal. We weren't able to match what OKC did, but I think like maybe it was a family decision as well. I get it. His partner maybe wanted to move closer to the west coast. I did hear there was something to that as well. So via Jake Fisher, Utah is sending numbers 21, 43, and 2 future seconds to Washington to select Florida guard Walter Clayton. So Danny Ainge starting to cook. Unfortunately, man, Danny Ainge, people are commenting right now. He's turning up. He's turning up right now as Danny Ainge. Trying to get Walter Clayton, the guy that he needs out there. Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, looks like they're on their way out. But I do like this from Washington's perspective as well. Getting numbers 21, 43, and 2 future seconds. I mean, that's a Leon Rose, Brock Aller kind of move, right? Like if you're at 18 and you're kind of like lukewarm on a guy and you're not really in love with who's there, and you can end up turning 18 into 21 and only moving down, 3 spots, and you get 43 and you get 2 future seconds as well. That's a big tick. That's a big tick for Washington. I mean, you've only moved down 3 spots and you've cashed in, with 3 extra picks. Right, that's crazy. Yeah, man, you got me thinking about it, Russell, now. iHeart with Towns and Mitch. Oh, man, we would have played double big lineups. 100%. Yeah, it is what it is now. It's part of history. I might sound salty, but I'm honestly not. I'm just like, congrats to Hartenstein. I'm just trying to understand why some of these players don't understand how special they could be winning in New York. But I still can't wrap my head around why some certain veterans and players haven't taken more discounts to come here. Like we're a winning team now. I understand back in the day, when we were maybe like the eighth seed, or they knew, look, why am I going to take a discount to go to the Knicks? We don't realistically have a shot. But now I'm like, if you're a veteran and it's like a couple of $1 million difference, and you could end up in Washington or Utah, or you could win in New York, like I'll look at you side eye if you end up choosing Washington or Utah, just for a little bit extra cash. Like, they obviously don't understand or maybe appreciate what winning here could do for their legacy. You only play for like 10 years of your life. The rest of your life is 30, 40, 50 more years of your legacy. And I think maybe what the front office now and James Dolan, they're trying to show the NBA fraternity. They're trying to show the world what it means to be a New York Knick. In this season, you saw like how many former Knicks return: J.R. Smith, Raymond Felton. You saw all of these former Knicks come out of the woodwork. Tim Thomas. It's just going to grow, man. I think Charles Oakley will come back. So I think, looking after these guys, you got Spreewell, LJ on the payroll, John Starks, ambassadorial role. Patrick Ewing now is an ambassador. So, with one of our picks, the Brooklyn Nets select Nolan Traore out of France. So the guard with the 19th pick. So the Brooklyn Nets are in the business tonight with their second pick now. They've got 2-3 more picks to come. Yeah, the people in Utah, they've got to be ecstatic with getting Walter Clayton. Great pickup for them. So we have confirmation, Jonathan Gavoni, Draft Express, ESPN. The Nets will be keeping the pick and pairing Nolan Traore with Igor Demon, who they selected at number 8. So, wow, they're going international, baby. The Brooklyn Nets, New York City, Brooklyn, international city. Are they trying to entice Giannis to come join the flavor of some international guys? Maybe they bring in RJ, is what I'm hearing might happen. Yep. Yeah, Johnny, there's so many French players at this point, man. I mean, France got a pretty high population, but they love their sports. Obviously, soccer and rugby, but basketball's taking over there, man, dominating with all of these picks. And the more of their young kids that are growing up playing basketball, look out. They've got the tools, they've got the size, the athletes over there as well. Yeah, Russell says, I heard Oakley can come back. Yeah, maybe next season, maybe a little bit further down the line. I could see it happening. The guys just got to mend fences, come together. Yeah, I think Oakley and Patrick Ewing also have to mend fences as well. There was some words spoken, in public between those two as well. It's not just Oakley and Dolan. But look, time heals all wounds. I think something can happen. It would be lovely for that team. Obviously, unfortunately, rest in peace, Anthony Mason. Hopefully his teammates of that era can come together. I know Anthony Mason's son is still on the scene and keeping ties with an organization with Anthony Mason's family. So we have the Miami Heat coming up. They're on the clock. We are approaching the home straight of the first round, pick 20. What's Pat Riley got up his sleeve right now, man? Hit us with a BAM trade. Shams Charania. So yeah, that's the new look backcourt of the Brooklyn Nets. Right, Igor Demon, Nolan Traore. So Jeff Goodman reports that the Miami Heat will select Yakinchunas with the 20th pick. Right, so that's no surprise. He was the best available on the board for a minute now. The guard out of Illinois, Kasparas Yakinchunas. Best available guy. That's a Pat Riley move. Pat Riley doesn't mind some international guys either. But they've got to move some pieces, man. I think the core between Tyler Hero and Bam, I think something's going to change between them. What do y'all think? The major surprise has got to be Hanson Yang, but obviously the Ace Bailey twist in the tail has really changed tonight. Yeah, so with Oakley, but just basically what I've heard is that there's a willingness on both sides to bury the hatchet. There's a willingness. I don't know how far along the line it is, and I think there's still some litigation happening as well. But I heard some quotes from Oakley during the playoff run, and then he was hosting some events, and he was speaking about the Knicks and everything in a positive light. We'll see. I mean, Dolan can forgive as well. He's shown that with Latrell Sprewell. So I think won't be surprised. I don't know how likely it's going to be yet. We'll see, man. But yeah, old head, salute. RJ getting traded because the Raptors now have Brandon Ingram and his contract already paying quick. Scotty Barnes, yep, Grady Dick, Jacoby Walter as well, fam. So yeah, I do think the writing is on the wall for RJ Barrett. I think just his contract is something that they're really looking at. Again, like I said, guys, it's become just as much of a financial decision for executives and front offices now. Like, you take a gamble on a guy, you pay him. If it doesn't work out, you have to trade him. You can't continue to cap your books and hamstring the team. You've got to be flexible to welcome in new pieces and players. So, like, if RJ gets traded again, it'll be bittersweet. But I mean, he's a made man, a multi-millionaire now, and it ain't like he's gonna, be hard off or anything. I think that hopefully he ends up in a team where he can continue developing, but just not the Brooklyn Nets. We'll see. The 20th pick, Yakinchunas headed to the Miami Heat. Now we've got the Utah Jazz on the clock. No, sorry, the trade happened. So this is the Washington Wiz. What you got for us, Washington, out there? Their new front office is starting to make some moves now. I think the Washington Wizards are starting to really turn a new leaf as an organization. They did hire that smart basketball mind when they made that switch up 2 years ago. They've drafted really well last season with Bub Carrington, Keyshawn George, Alex Sarr. They're adding pieces, some good vets as well, with Marcus Smart getting out of Jordan Poole's contract. They got Malcolm Brogdon, Chris Middleton. Yeah, some guys that are over the hill, but they're winners. They've all won at the highest level when it comes to Malcolm Brogdon, Marcus Smart, and also, Chris Middleton, Kelly Olynyk as well, combined with their young players. Hopefully for us, they can win some more games next season. and they can give up the pick to our New York Knicks. So we have the Washington Wizards on the clock with the pick from the Utah Jazz. Almighty Finesse likes Trey Johnson for the Wiz. Yeah, definitely, fam. Like I said, they're making some nice moves. I think the Washington Wiz, getting out of Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole was some of the smartest things that they can do. Danny, no news relating to the draft from the first round with us. Reports that we're looking to move up tomorrow night, second round. Reports that we're interviewing James Borrego for the head coaching job. Reports that Jason Kidd would love to take the Knicks job. He just has to find a way to get out of that situation. He hasn't got an extension yet. We're waiting to find out how serious the Jason Kidd thing is. We'll see. Yeah, Summer League's going to be fun. Look forward to covering that right now. I know our young Knicks players are in the gym, coming together, hanging out ahead of a 5-day mini camp. So Miami's keeping the pick. Yarkanchunas. I like that one. RJ Barrett, I think defensively needs to get better. Offensively, he's shown what he can do. A little one-dimensional with the slashing and the three-point shot needing to be more consistent. But I just think if RJ's defense could improve, he would be looked at as a completely different prospect. Western Plays, as an OKC fan, I hate our pick. Yeah, it was a little surprising for me. Thomas Sorber out, the center move. I mean, you've got Chet and you've got Hartenstein. Is Sorber more of a long-term development play? You planning to play more double bigs? That seems to be the way the league is going. And yeah, I like the Utah Jazz pickups. Almighty. I like the pickup. Walter Clayton was a great. I mean, they did give up a few seconds, but they've probably got heaps to give up. The Utah Jazz have got a lot of assets. Good for the Wizards to pick that one up. Margaret likes Taylor Jenkins ahead of J. Kidd. For me, I wouldn't mind both. I wouldn't mind either, sorry, but I think the front office would take Jason Kidd ahead of Jenkins, but I think Jenkins is the plan B. I think Jenkins is the backup right now. Although the reports come out that Mike Brown did interview well, you expect Mike Brown to, Mike Brown is kind of the safe option as well because, he's a 4-time assistant champion, coached so many Hall of Famers, It's just, is he as creative? Is he, rigid at all in his ways as a more experienced coach? That's something to pay attention to as well. But yeah, Danny, no news on the Knicks draft front for tomorrow. No trades to move up, move down, pick up future acquisitions. Let's see. Would love the Knicks to try to get some more picks, We have to be prepared if Giannis Antetokounmpo becomes available. You have to be in that conversation right now. We have some veterans, but we don't have enough picks. The Bucks will want picks, right? It's not just going to be Karl Anthony Towns and, OG or Deuce. It's got to be draft picks, headed to Milwaukee. Right now, I'm worried that Giannis asks out. The Knicks got to be ready because that is a franchise-altering move. That puts you at the summit of the NBA if you can acquire Giannis Antetokounmpo. So reports coming out from the Utah Jazz are active in trade discussions with multiple teams on Colin Sexton. After trading up for Walter Clayton Jr. with the Wiz, the Sexton is on the block. So that's been the case for a minute. We'll see what Danny Ainge ultimately does, man. He's going to try to get some picks as well, I feel. The issue is Colin Sexton's making $18 million. So it's going to be tricky if the Knicks want to get in on that. What do you think? Sexton, $18 million. The Knicks can't get to that point unless they do a sign and trade with Precious, Mitch. You know, they might have to part with one of the younger guys. Yeah, I'm good with that. You know, I think we can find a nice prospect on a cheaper contract. But I do like the fight. I do like the hustle of Colin Sexton, but not at 18 million. Like, not at 18 million, man. Russell says, I don't want Giannis to gut the team. Yeah, I understand. It's just that case of like, how long is the Knicks window going to be open? You have to seize the opportunities. It's still a gamble. I still think we'd have enough left to build a good team. Knicks have done nothing yet. Nothing in the first round, fam. So buckle up. Later first round's coming up. Second round still to come tomorrow. The Knicks are trying to move up in the second round and get one of their wings. They're trying to get Jameer Watkins, Adieu Thiero, one of the other pro wings in Australia. There's a couple that they like. They'll try to get a plug and play guy. You know, they're not going to get a project. The Knicks are not looking to get a player that's going to take a couple of years. They want someone to come in and speed this thing up a bit. I think Pacome Dardier is already a guy that could, with upside, that could continue developing. We want to get a guy that can come in, handle the rock a bit, or play good defense so that they can get minutes. I think they're in a good position to move up. The asking price seems to be cash and a second round future pick in order to move up a few spots. That seems to be reasonable. Hard pass for Sexton, says someone. No, Almighty says Hart, Josh Hart for Sexton. Yeah, the money makes sense for Josh Hart, but I just don't see the front office doing that. Look, talent versus talent, I think that's a fair trade, but I just don't think you're not winning too much more with Sexton over Josh Hart. I think Hart's better for the culture. Yeah, I'm definitely not for gutting the team, but we have a lot of assets. You know, we're looking for more depth as well. So here we go. The pick is in from the Wizards via the Utah Jazz, and they've gone with Will Riley, the guard out of Illinois. So interesting. Will Riley headed to DC. Another guard. Man, they've got a lot of guards. But then again, they've got so much young talent. But that's the pick from the Wiz, Will Riley. That does make sense at that spot. With pick 21, right? So we continue. Pick 22 now is going to be I lose count with all these trade backs. So this trade is going to be the one, I think, from earlier. Or no, is this one going to be? Is the Atlanta Hawks going to be making this pick from the LA Lakers via New Orleans? We'll find out in a second, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, solid trade from the Wizards and the Utah Jazz. I think that was a win-win. The Jazz get Walter Clayton. The Wizards move back, get Will Riley, and they get number 43 and 2 second rounders, man. Maybe we could get pick 43. Let's hope that we find out, guys, that pick 43 is being rerouted to the New York Knicks for pick 50 and a future second or something. If the Knicks can get to 43, they could get Jameer Watkins. They could get an Adu Thiero. They could get a guy like a Sion James, a Micah Peavy, in order to man some of the wing minutes and get and play some defense for us, provide some offense as well. One thing that I think is going to be the biggest difference, guys, we're going to diversify our offense under this new coach. That was one of the big decisions with Thibodeau, was just to not put so much burden on JB, to score 35 a night in order to win. And it's the sad truth, but every time the Knicks won a ball game, you looked at the box score, it's because Jalen Brunson had to have basically 30 to 33 points a night. If Brunson didn't score 30, there was probably a higher likeliness that we lose. So we need to spread the scoring out, Play Brunson off ball a little bit. If he's getting hounded by the jumbo wing, have him play off the ball a little bit with another hub. He can space the floor out off the ball. Bring in another ball handler, whether it's, alongside with Deuce. Maybe you could get a Tyrese Proctor. That would be a good pickup, to get a Tyrese Proctor, a 6'6" combo guard that could score, can facilitate, and pop the three from downtown. The Knicks could get that in the second round. The thing about a new coach is they're obviously going to have a lot of sample, which is good, because when a new coach normally comes into a situation, they're building the roster usually still. This guy's going to come in and the roster is built. They already know what they're getting. They would have seen the playoffs. They would have seen the scouts and where the Knicks sort of failed and where they succeed. So we just got to keep building around what we have and strengthen our weaknesses, which is defense on the perimeter. Maybe add some front court depth and try to get some more ball handling and shooting. The Brooklyn Nets will select Drake Powell. So that's being traded to the Brooklyn Nets, pick 22. Interesting, fam. Interesting with that one. Just refreshing and seeing what's up with that pick. So the Brooklyn Nets continue to get busy selecting Drake Powell with number 22 out of NC. Russell says, I like Huckporty a lot. Tibbs didn't play him in the playoffs. Yeah, the front office had frustrations about that specifically, and a lot more. But yeah, very specifically, the front office scouts heavily. They believe in talent that they bring in, and they see that rotting away on the bench. It's very discouraging. That's why you see reports that, Rick Brunson is trying to get in Tibbs' ear and encourage him to expand the bench. That's why he was a part of the movement with William Wesley. Ultimately, Dolan got wind of the situation throughout the season. Remember that report? He went to the Knicks locker room. One of those games where Ariel Huckporty got some shine. And what happened? James Dolan went to the locker room and had a one-on-one conversation and congratulated Ariel Huckporty. I mean, how many times do you see that? You don't see that very often. It's because James Dolan, he was across what was happening. We'll put it that way. He understood because William Wesley is super close to Dolan, and he's talking to him all the time. And Huck Porty, when he wasn't getting minutes ahead of Jericho Sims, it was frustrating a lot of people. But Jericho was Tibbs's guy. That was the thing. Jericho Sims was Tibbs's guy. Front office made these moves. Huck Porty's come in, showed some promise, and was sitting on the bench. And that's what happened. That's how it played out. So look, James Dolan, he knows what's happening. He sits on the baseline every game. Remember those games? A couple of times, Jericho would grab the rebound and he would he would turn away from the basket, and the crowd would ooh and ah and be frustrated. Everyone could see it. Everyone could see what was happening, but Jericho continued to get minutes, and then it got to a point where it was just ugly, and something had to change, and then something changed. I think Jericho had one game where he played a couple of minutes, turned it over. He tried a dribble move. That's right. I think he tried a spin dribble move, or he tried to do something a little bit more outside of his comfort zone. And then Thibodeau just like, all right. Then he changed it up, and then he gave Huck Porty a chance. And then I think that was when James Dolan went to the locker room, and he knew what was happening. Nelly Nell says Sion James is an interesting prospect. Yeah, 100% agree. I like Sion James. I like the tools, the physical profile. So the next pick is in. We have Asa Newell getting selected with the 23rd pick from the Atlanta Hawks via the New Orleans Pelicans. So the Pelicans moved up earlier, and the Hawks are selecting after moving down into this 23 spot. And they're going to pick up Asa Newell. So the Pelicans selected Derek Queen. That's right. They moved up to get Derek Queen, their guy, with the 13th pick. And the Hawks moved back down and got another asset. So a lot of these guys are doing what the Knicks were doing when they were picking in like that 20 range. Grab a guy that you don't want, or you move back down and get a couple of picks. That's what we did with Quentin Grimes. That's what we did in the Jalen Johnson one draft as well, fam. When we selected Jalen Johnson, we moved back down. Fam. So that is the pick. Asa Newell headed 23. We've got OKC back on the clock. I mean, how many roster spots can they fill? Oklahoma, are they going to pick another stash? Is this where the New York Knicks could get in and steal one of these picks? Let's hope, fam. So Georgia product, Asa Newell, who Atlanta was very much considering at number 13, sources say is going to the Hawks with the 23 pick. So they were very much considering Asa Newell with 13, but they moved back down and they ended up getting him. So that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, you got to play more guys, I think the substitution patterns are changing, definitely. Notice those games. I think the couple of comebacks against Boston, Brunson was resting a bit more on the bench later into the fourth quarter. And when he got back into the game, he was more fresh. It might not have been the Boston one. It was a couple of those games. It might have been one against Indiana. But he kept Brunson on the bench until like the fifth minute. in the fourth quarter, and then he brings Brunson on, and Brunson just takes over straight away, and capitalizes. So that shows that you can start the fourth quarter, you could play your backup, you could play them more minutes, and then when it hits crunch time with 5 minutes to go, you can bring Brunson on when he's fresh. That's how you use your bench. That's how you got to use these guys. If you start Brunson on the 9th or 8th minute of the fourth quarter, he's gassed. By the time the crunch time hits, he's gassed already. So I like that. The expanded rotation. I think 12 is probably a little too deep, but 10, 11. Hey, especially with our bigs, man. We've got bigs that are in foul trouble a lot. And I think we're going to need at least 3, 4 ready-made bigs that can rotate. Because Huck Porty could get in foul trouble a bit. Mitch, health concerns, durability. Karl Anthony Towns in foul trouble. We're going to need 4 to 5 front court players that, can eat up minutes. I think we will pick up a front court. We will definitely pick up a front court guy. Either in free agency or the draft. So Bobby Marks saying Atlanta in the last 24 hours have picked up Kristaps Porzingis, Asa Newell, and the more favorable 2026 pick from Milwaukee or the Pels. Expect the Hawks to be active with their $25 million trade exception entering free agency, and they're targeting Nickeil Alexander-Walker as well with that massive trade exception. So the Knicks got to get busy, man. The Atlanta Hawks are improving. I'm not going to say that they're like top 4 now or top 3. They are coming though. They're building more depth. If Jalen Johnson stays healthy, Kristaps can be healthy, they're going to be formidable. If they do get Nickeil Alexander-Walker as well with their massive trade exception, they're a good team. So Atlanta are trying to get better. We'll see how it plays out. The Knicks will select tomorrow, Mario. The Knicks don't have their pick tonight. We haven't acquired an extra pick yet. So we will select tomorrow night with the 50th pick so far. But I think the Knicks will move up. We'll get an earlier second round pick. And I think hopefully we can add to what we have with some more picks. Sacramento are trading for the Oklahoma City Thunder's 24 pick to select Nate Clifford. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, this Oklahoma pick at pick 24, it was acquirable. I really wish the Knicks could have done something to get this pick. But shout out to Sacramento coming in and acquiring this pick from OKC. There's only so many players OKC can acquire, so many picks. They don't have no roster spots. All they're going to do is just keep recycling these picks and just keep kicking them down the road. And Sacramento have swooped in and have poached Nate Clifford. So that's a great pickup for the Sacramento Kings. Stealing this pick and getting Nate Clifford. So the first round, man, there's only 5 picks left. Now, 6 more picks left. Let's see what happens. Yeah, great point Margaret makes here. Appreciate you. The financial aspect is a big key. A first round salary contract comes with guaranteed money. But the Knicks could have found ways, they could have easily sent out, because we're late in the second round. The Knicks could have sent out some other salary. Um, let's see in summer league. It does look like they are, gonna invest and high on Pacome Dardier, Tyler Kolek. If those guys are here, they need to play. They are earning guaranteed money, and they need to play if we are going to keep them. Let's see. I want to see Tyler Kolek play 30 minutes every summer league game, and I want to see Pacome Dardier play 30 minutes in every summer league game. Right. Two-man game. Run the offense around them. And Huck Porty. Yeah, the rookie's got to play. Bridges, fam, the extension. Let's see what happens with that, because Mitch is extension eligible now, and so is Mikal. And so the Knicks got to come to a number that works for both parties. If not, they can send them to a location that could help both teams. That's if they can't reach a mutual agreement. Man, with Mikal Bridges, I just don't know about an early extension. I would love to bring him back and just see what he looks like under the new coach. But unfortunately, maybe a gentleman's agreement might have already been made, basically when we traded for him, just like we did with OG, When you trade for someone, it's assumed that you're gonna, try to extend them. Obviously, when you give up 5 first-round picks, you better. But for me, I would like to see Bridges come back for another year before I'm investing more money. There was some good, there was some bad, there was some ugly, and I want to see what he looks like in the second year with the new coach before I'm going to invest another 35 million. Because once he signs, he signs. If theoretically, I'm not saying it's going to happen, and I hope it doesn't, but if his play continues to decline and you've signed him on the dotted line, then that becomes a contract that you're going to have to, a contract that's difficult to get out of, and you can't afford that in this day and age now. With the new aprons and you can't afford to have a $30 million contract. That's looked around the league as a unfavorable contract. So with me, I call my Jets with an extension. I think the Knicks should have done the same thing with Thibodeau. I think Leon Rose was too quick to give Thibodeau an extension, keep him working, bring him back another season, and then extend him. In the end, it was the wrong move, They extended Thibodeau. Dolan had to pay $30 million out. But I also felt like Thibodeau's performance, dropped because, I don't want to go off on a whole rant, but when you're 68 years old and you're in your contract year, it's a different situation. When somebody gives you the extension and they give you a $30 million deal when you're 68, I just think Thibodeau was less malleable. He was like, hey, you've extended me now. I'm going to do it my way. And I think he got more stubborn. I think if Thibodeau was in the contract year with no extension, he might have been more likely to adapt and adjust and do what the front office wanted them to do to get an extension. Once Tibbs got that extension, he was like, you know what? If you don't want me, you're going to have to pay me out $30 million. I'm 68 years old. I'm doing it my way. And ultimately, he did it his way. And the Knicks had to pay him out. The Knicks had to pay, Tibbs, and the extension hadn't even kicked in yet. So you can't make that mistake. Keep these guys hungry before extending them, Margaret agrees. She says Bridges needs to really play better. Yeah, solid player. He just more of a $20 to $25 million player, if I'm being honest, not 35. But if his play does, you know, play improves and gets back to what it used to be, what it can be, then I think it's more than okay, you know. Um, but yeah, it's tough decisions, man. So with the 25th pick, Jace Richardson is headed to the Denver Nuggets, fam. So they get some much needed depth. The Denver Nuggets obviously are in a tough spot, and they need some young talent coming through. And Jace Richardson is going to head out to the Rockies at the 25th pick. So we've got 2 Brooklyn picks to come, the Celtics, and we've got Phoenix, and the Clippers will round out the first round, ladies and gentlemen. Will we see another major trade? We'll find out. Yeah, with Thibodeau, it was a situation where like it's tough given that circumstance. I think not a lot of people talked about his age and the grind. I mean, Tibbs, is a lifer. He focuses on basketball, doesn't have many other distractions with family and children and all of that. But it's tough at that age. Like it's got to be tough to coach, intensely 68, travel on the road every other day, hotel rooms in and out. Like, yeah, it's tough, man. I know at 68, I want to be retired, man. I don't want to be I don't want to be on the grind like that. So he got that extension, and then I think this year where there was some drop off from the previous year. And that is what it is. It happens a lot when you give a guy a contract. Um, let's see what else plays out as the final picks of the first round hit. Let's see what plays out with Brooklyn Nets with pick 26. There's been quite a few trades, not too many major surprises. I feel like the Ace Bailey thing was eye-opening. I can't wait to read up on the wash up from that story. Utah Jazz getting Ace Bailey, so his ploy, his goal to not work out for any teams, it kind of backfired. But Danny Ainge, he's kind of that guy. He doesn't care. And then Hanson Yang, a late first, second round prospect, gets selected at 16. A lot of people were singing his praise. He's clearly got talent as an offensive big man. Maybe a team did a lot more of their research and they like what he brings. Those are the 2 major surprises. The Orlando Magic getting Jace Richardson with the 25th pick is the latest selection. Quiet Night says Lily Phillips. For our New York Knicks, definitely. Hopefully we're saving all the buzz for tomorrow. I do think the Knicks got to move up. Hopefully they do and can try to find a more ready-made prospect earlier in the second round. They'll have tonight to really work the phones. Let's see if it really benefits the Knicks, this new 2-day format. You got more time. Think about the last format, the second round picks, that would be like one minute. It'd be like, okay, you got to make a decision. Okay, you got to make a couple of calls for a few trades, and then you got to make the pick. Now they could go to sleep, they could wake up, they can maybe break bread in the morning before the draft begins, make a few trades. I do think there'll be more player trades tomorrow. Think of all these teams today that kind of emptied their clip and blew their load today. Tomorrow they're going to have a lot of time to kind of work on some other trades, player trades, maybe try to move in or out of the second round. So I think tomorrow might be more busy. I think tomorrow might be more busy than tonight, you know, especially for some of these player trades. We do know for a fact that Miami is trying to offload Andrew Wiggins. The Raptors are trying to offload RJ Barrett. They haven't happened yet. You've got what's that other team trying to offload? The Heat. We'll see. Yeah, the Heat looking to offload Wiggins. I said that already. And there's one more other guy. But yeah, we can buy a pick, Paula. We can. Second round. The value on a second round contract is all the same. So we could buy a pick, hopefully buy a couple. Salute to the chat. Old Head says we gave away too many picks for Bridges, but he played well for the Knicks and may play even better for a new coach. Yeah, new system, and I think comfortability, also familiarity with our current guys. I think that'll really help for next season. I just want to see more hunger, from Bridges. He played too soft. Let's keep it a buck. The guy was scared of contact. Wouldn't finish at the rim in traffic. Would fade away, and the mid-range was great. Was a great mid-range, but the three-point ball wasn't what we needed. Now with the 26th pick, the Brooklyn Nets will select Ben Saraf, playing. He's basically out of Israel. Ben Saraf, the guard out of Israel, the second round. The 26th pick from the Brooklyn Nets. So that's not too much of a surprise. Danny Wolf, that'll be interesting to see if he slips to the second round. Hugo Gonzalez, I think, will get picked up in a minute. Knicks target, Adu Thiero, is sitting right there, man. So the Knicks, he's going to go early in the second round. If the Knicks do want to pick him up, they'll have to move up. The Knicks also like Jameer Watkins out of Florida State. He's going to go in the top 40 tomorrow. Alex Tuhi is also admired as well. There's a Villanova product, Eric Dixon, slip to 50. That would be a really, really high value addition. I like Bryce Williams as well. Where is Bryce Williams, fam? Looks like he's on the next page, fam. Micah Peavy. I mean, there's a ton of value in the second round right now. Kobe Sanders as well. Amari Williams, the big man out of Kentucky, is also one to watch. There's talent, there's value. The Knicks hopefully acquire a second pick, but if not, I think they will end up with a prospect that I like. A wing, maybe a guy that's a two-way guy that could play both sides of the floor. Guy with a bit more size. We do have enough undersized players when it comes to, Jalen Brunson, Deuce McBride, Landry Shamet is 6'4", Tyler Kolek undersized. Get a guy that's got real size in his position. That could guard a few positions. Brooklyn have a lot of guards. Yeah, they do. They're definitely stacking up the young talent. Old Head says Bridges does need to get in the weight room and play more physical. He is a role player. I think the days have passed in terms of putting on more weight, man. I think his body type just is difficult to put on weight, you know, because he's so long. Um, yeah, cardiac. That was our pick with the Nets pick. So if I go back to the board, the New Jersey Nets select with the New York pick 26. So these are the kind of guys we would have been looking for, which is, I mean, I'm confident if the Knicks can get into the 40 range or 30 range, we'll end up with a player just as good as whoever is on the board right now. So that's one of those picks that we sent to Brooklyn, and it is Ben Seraph. We'll see what he ends up as, but you know he's not a difference maker, you know, right now. Um, yeah, some of you agree with Bridges. Maybe a lot of it was to do with him wanting to secure a contract. Buzzer says, how about in the next CBA, a dollar value is put on a pick, then a team can buy a pick? I understand what you're saying. I think that would be interesting, but I think they won't do that because then it just becomes, you know, a matter of, you know, money and buying, you know, outbidding each other for the highest pick, and overspending with that situation. So I do think the lottery, though, needs to change. I think it hasn't really cured tanking, in my opinion. What do you guys think about the lottery? Any ideas to kind of change or switch up the lottery aspect? Like, look at this year. Like, how the hell does the Dallas Mavericks end up with the first pick? Like, I mean, should it have just gone to the Washington Wizards, or should it have just gone to the Charlotte Hornets? You know, those teams is going to continue to be a problem because they can't get over the hump. You know, they keep drafting in the fourth spots. The Utah Jazz as well. Washington Wizards draft in the sixth spot. You got the San Antonio Spurs that keep getting better. Cooper Flag as well. You know, in my opinion, there should also be a rule that if you've won the lottery the year prior, you know, let's say you selected Wembanyama, the following year you can't be in the top 3 or you can't be in the top 5. It's somebody else's turn. That's how you even it out. Because teams can build a dynasty real quick. You get Wembanyama one year. The next year you end up with the first or second pick. The following year you end up with another top 4 pick. And that's how you end up with a dynasty. And you could short circuit the system by tanking consistently. So in my opinion, Wembanyama, they got the first pick last year. Yeah, they shouldn't be picking second. You know, give it up to Charlotte or give it up to Washington. So there's more parity. You know, that's what I would do. So it looks like Danny Wolf is off the board now, and he is headed to Brooklyn as well from the Houston Rockets. So another selection from the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn Nets stacking up young names, young talent. What are they going to do? What was their end goal? They've got international prospects, Ben Seraph, Nolan Traore, and Igor Demon, man. They're the international Nets. Right? And they add Danny Wolf. What do you guys think about that? So we officially only have 3 more spots. The Boston Celtics are back. Buzzerbeater likes that idea. Yep. Maybe we could keep it as is, but we just introduce a few rules where, like, you fall back. If you're consistently in the top 3, you fall back one until someone else who hasn't been in the top 3 take up. Russell Thomas says first 8 worst teams should get 1 to 8 picks. So yeah, the first to 8 worst teams should get the first to 8 worst picks. Isn't that kind of what it used to be though? And then you have like the Philly 76ers continue to do the same thing. Or maybe I think what you might also mean is maybe you reverse it and the team that just misses out on the playoffs gets the highest pick. That would be fun, but that would be dangerous because then if you're just on the cusp of contending, then you could really take up. Old Head says, I like that. CT, the league needs more balance. Yet remember the Cavs getting all the first after losing LeBron. Yeah. That's my issue, man. My issue is the Spurs are just gonna they're still pretty good. They've got Wemby, but my concern is they're gonna just keep getting picks in the top 3, and then they're just gonna end up with a dynasty. If you want a dynasty, force these teams to nail the 11th pick. Force them to have to find the best player at number 8. Not continuously giving them the best talent that's at the top of the draft. Shez V says the Wiz got robbed on pick selection. King David says Stephen A got to be the worst everything. This is the first time I haven't watched any broadcast. I've been rocking with y'all from start to finish, man. So this has been fun as we wind down the first round. This has been fun from that perspective. Not listening to any biased commentary or any other, thoughts, what they're saying. And look forward to tomorrow as we break down. We'll be live start of the second round. We'll probably wake up in the morning and there will be some trades during the day. And maybe we'll already know where the Knicks are going to select if they can trade before the second round starts. So yeah, the Boston Celtics select another international prospect, Hugo Gonzalez, out of Spain. And that's an interesting prospect, a guard, a shooter out there. Obviously, we know that they lose Drew Holiday. They might be losing Sam Hauser as well. There's talk that he's on the trade block. So maybe Sam Hauser might be on the out. They've got Baylor Shireman from last season's draft, who they want to elevate like a normal functioning franchise. Like the Knicks should be elevating Pacome Dardier. So Boston want to elevate Baylor Shireman from last season. Maybe Sam Hauser is going to get moved. And they're taking Gonzalez now. So let's see with these couple of final picks, man. Now, Margaret made a great point before. The Knicks don't want to get into the first round. It's too much guaranteed money. But best believe, when it comes to pick 31, the Knicks might be vying for the first pick in the second round. I'm sure they're going to try to get one of these Charlotte picks, pick 33 or 34. What is Charlotte going to do with all these picks, man? They don't need all of them. Surely the Knicks can buy one of those Charlotte picks from tomorrow with some cash and pick 50. Some cash, pick 50. We'll throw in a future second if they like. We've got to get into that 30 range. and see what we can do. What time does it start tomorrow? The same time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. 8 p.m. Eastern. Yep. Russell, appreciate you. Great to have you with us. Everyone rocking out with us, whether you're NBA Nation or Knicks Nation. It's been fun to cover this. I always like the NBA draft night, man. It's a fun situation because anything can happen. It's random, but also, you know, it builds up. You know, you kind of know teams are going to select, so you know your team's going to get a new player. You know your team might be trading something. I think the NBA needs more situations like this. I think they should do a mid-season draft. That would be hot. I think they should do the trade deadline over a week, where it's just 1 week, you know, and you do the in-season tournament, you do the All-Star weekend, and you do the trade deadline all at the same week. You stop all of the games so that, you know, teams can chill out for a bit and they can rest their injuries and they can, like, you know, chill out, like I said. Pause all of the games for a week, do a mid-season tournament, All-Star weekend, draft, all during the same week. Make it like an event, you know? You can make it like an event and build the hype. You could sell the packages to different, you know, or they have sold the packages to streaming networks. And I think fans appreciate these kind of things because, like, hey, like imagine halfway through the season, things aren't going the way you want. You might want to pivot and tank, or you might want to, you know, load up and make a run, and everybody comes together and you do like a week, sort of like another mid-season draft where you can trade, where you could pick up some other guys, you know. Maybe you have one wild card, you know. How about this, guys? Were you a fan of the amnesty clause? I was a fan of the amnesty clause, all right. One contract that you can eat. It doesn't matter how much they're earning. You could amnesty that contract and pay that guy out. And it doesn't count against the salary cap. Imagine that, man. Imagine if one team can have an amnesty clause. And once you use it, maybe you get one every, you give a team one every 5 years, let's say. So once you've used it, you can't use another one for 5 more years. You know, I think the Knicks obviously made a big mistake not amnestying Stoudemire and amnestying Billups. Instead, that didn't make any sense. That set the Melo era back in that one. But you know, that was a case of James Dolan, you know, meddling too much. So Liam McNeely's slide ends with the Hornets' 29th pick. Sources say. So Liam McNeely, he was higher up on the best available. So that makes a lot of sense for the Charlotte Hornets at 29, fam. Yeah, from UConn. And we're 1 pick away from the second round, man. So if we just scroll down and we do the math, so how many picks left? We've got 21 more picks until the Knicks pick. So 21, we're looking at these guys, fam. Best available on the board. We're looking at a potentially Eric Dixon. Hey, Tyrese Proctor would be great. I think we have to trade up for him. But we're looking at maybe Kobe Breyer, Vlad Golden, Kobe Sanders, Dink Pate. I like those names. I like Elijah Martin. I do think Ryan Nembhard will get selected by Indiana and paired up with his brother. Man, all the way down, I like Bryce Williams, a nice 2 guard that can create shots and shoot it. There's some guys further down from tomorrow. So, the Knicks will be able to get a prospect that I think can come in and push for minutes under a new coach. Uh, who that coach is going to be, man, nobody knows right now. I mean, if I'm taking odds, I would have to say that there's still a chance that Jason Kidd is the coach. But I mean, you've got to have maybe Taylor Jenkins and Mike Brown kind of at the top. Jason Kidd maybe slightly lower. Then Micah Nori, and then James Borrego with this situation. Buzzer, I haven't formally submitted anything, man, but maybe I should. There should be more of these guys coming together, with the forums, offering their suggestions to the NBA. And yeah, you agree. You were hoping that the amnesty clause would be a continuous thing. Yep. I do think that it would cause chaos with the CBA though, because you wouldn't really rely on trading for albatross contracts. You could just eliminate those contracts now. But what it would allow you is to take a huge gamble. Like you could trade for a guy knowing that you can pay him the mega max. You could pay him whatever you wanted, like $80 million a year. And if it doesn't work out and he was, suffered an injury or something, you could amnesty. Now imagine that. Imagine that. You could free up spots. Margaret says the Knicks will have to give up picks to get Jason Kidd. Forget it. Yeah, is it worth it? Whatever he would bring, is it worth giving up more assets for? That's a big question. Is it a couple of second round picks? That would be okay. If it's the Washington protected top 8 pick, when that might end up conveying, then it would be a pass for me. So yeah, it's going to be one of those situations where I'm fascinated to see where it ends up. I mean, the front office does seem to be very high on Jason Kidd, so we'll find out what happens. I do think it's probably going to be Mike Brown or Taylor Jenkins right now, but maybe Micah Nori has really stepped up and moved up. So we're waiting on the final pick of the first round. The LA Clippers, fam, their first pick of the night. So Hugo Gonzalez out of Spain headed to Boston. Going to be fascinating to see what Boston do next, man. They're going to try to keep Luke Cornett and Al Horford. They might trade out Sam Hauser to send his money out. Would you guys be open to getting a Sam Hauser? I think he's earning maybe like $8 million. It's probably a little bit too much for us. Considering they're trying to shed salary, we can't absorb those salaries. Is Johnny Bryant out of the running? I can't say for sure, man. I think there's still a chance. Maybe they're saving his name till last. They're trying to build up all this hype that they're going to sign one of these other guys, and then they end up going with Johnny. But I think out of the order, I think Johnny Bryant's like, down the pecking order a bit, 5th, 6th option right now. It's interesting, like we haven't had a coach for, we haven't not had a coach for 6 years, and they are taking this very, very seriously. They're well aware of the optics and what it looks like, to be asking around for all these coaches and you know, bad PR that it is, but they want to get the right guy, you know. Uh, so the Clippers will select Yannick Niederhauser um, with the final pick in the first round out of Penn State, the big man, Yannick Niederhauser. So that is the first round, fam. Maxime Renault is still available in the second round. Noah Pender is interesting. Edu Thiero is someone that the Knicks like. Very interesting. Jameer Watkins, Shaz Lanier. A lot of interesting names still available for tomorrow. So that is the first round, guys, with the Clippers. The final pick, selecting Yannick Niederhauser, and that is the first round. What stands out to y'all? A pretty quiet night, I think, as a whole. A couple of trade ups and downs and picking, swapping, and that sort of thing. But nothing that's kind of like changed the landscape. Nothing that's really like out of the teams that are trying to win. It's all of these, losing teams, jockeying for position. And yeah, Shesby, a lot of the Australians still on the board in the second round. We'll see what happens tomorrow, guys. 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be live just before it kicks off once again. Hopefully I don't log off and we do a trade, but I think hopefully something in the morning tomorrow will have us hyped. Buzzer says, CT, has this coaching search changed your perspective on Rose? Maybe a little. It's changed my perspective from more so the decision to move on from Tibbs. Not so much how they're conducting the search or their methods. I have no problem with how they're conducting the search and what they're doing. But it sort of changed my perspective on Rose. The fact that he was willing to extend Tibbs that premature and then was okay to move on from him as well. That was a big decision. So I feel like he will do what's in the best interest of the team now. He'll trade a Villanova guy. He'll fire Tom Thibodeau. I mean, there's nothing out of the realm of possibility. So yeah, that sort of changed my thinking now on Leon Rose. He traded Obi Toppin, his first ever draft pick, and a guy that was closely connected with family connections. He's traded a Villanova guy and he's fired Tom Thibodeau. So, he's not married to anyone, man. He's not married to any situation. He'll make it happen, man. If and whatever's necessary. Now, can he get the job done, man? That's what's next. Can he put us over the top and get a difference-making move? Hopefully, because the window is open, especially next season. But how long is the window going to stay open? For how long? And next season is big time, man. It might be the Knicks' best chance to win a championship since 1997, maybe 94 or 97. Well, obviously 94 we came within one game. But 97, the Knicks had absolutely very realistic possibility of winning a championship in 97 prior to the suspensions against the Heat. 1999 was more of a joyride where it was like, the Spurs were built to win that one. But definitely since the 2013 New York Knicks, I think that Melo team with all those veterans could have got to the finals. But obviously if they'd beaten Indiana, they would have had LeBron James, over there in the conference finals. But yeah, definitely going back quarter century. you know, uh, with that situation. So next season, man, the Knicks need to make those moves and get us in the best possible position to top the East right now. My early prediction would probably be Cleveland Cavaliers versus New York Knicks. I think the Cleveland Cavaliers will get better. They'll come back with a chip on their shoulder. I mean, second round exit for them was disgusting. I think they're going to come back with more fire, and the New York Knicks also need to come back with more fire as well. Having lost in the conference finals, you definitely want to get back to the conference finals at minimum. And so the Hawks are making some moves. The Boston Celtics will still be competitive. Orlando Magic are making some moves. I don't know what Indiana's going to look like. I think they'll kind of be that little overachiever, kind of 6 seed, 5 seed, without Tyrese Halliburton. Maybe one of their guys makes a major leap, like Andrew Nembhard. Looks like he's going to be the starting point guard. They'll still be competitive. Do the Toronto Raptors become a little more competitive? They had a lot of injuries. They've got the wing now, Brandon Ingram. They might get something out of him and make some noise. Yeah, the Magic, I think, are going to be tough. Let's not forget about the Detroit Pistons. But I kind of feel like the Pistons are going to kind of stay where they are because they're going to lose Dennis Schroeder, I think, and they might also lose Malik Beasley, who's a free agent. So they might be a victim of their own success. The Detroit Pistons. I think they are going to have to try to trade or get out of Tim Hardaway, fam. I think they might lose Tim Hardaway Jr. as well. The cap is coming for everyone right now. It's a tough situation. So let me just recap and see if there's been any other updates or moves from the Knicks. Some people are frustrated, a bit underwhelmed, but it's the first round. The Knicks weren't going to select tonight, especially with the money that was there. Tomorrow's second round is going to be very, very interesting. A lot of good talent still on the board. A lot of teams can go home tonight, think about their moves, think about what they can do. People might want to give up a pick now. Other teams might want to dip back in and try to get more picks. So that is going to be fun, man. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. And we can focus then on the future. We can look at Summer League and the rest of this coaching search, man. Do what we got to do. There'll be some more news about Summer League coming through. Some players that we're going to bring in to fill out the rest of Summer League. But who do I like out of tonight? I think Utah Jazz did very well. I think obviously the Dallas Mavericks are the lucky ones. I do like what the Washington Wizards have done again. I like the Atlanta Hawks getting Derek Queen. I like the Atlanta Hawks moving up. Atlanta Hawks move back down. Derek Queen to the Pels, but the Atlanta Hawks moving back down and getting Drake Powell or Asen Newell. Hanson Yang, that was a surprising move. I think that'll be interesting to see how that can play out. I mean, Memphis will look like geniuses if that works out for them. Who else do I like? I think the Spurs had a good draft as well. Obviously, where they're selecting, and Philly did solid as well. with VJ Edgecombe. So yeah, appreciate everyone. Bricks Nation, smash that like button. Says good show, CT. Everyone in the building tonight, salute. Replay squad, salute. And game round 2 tomorrow, man. It's on, game on. Hopefully the New York Knicks can get busy and pick up a nice prospect, a wing, a two-way player, and give us some defense and offense, and be switchable. That's what I'm looking for as well. I do like Jamira Watkins. Let's look at Sion James, Kobe Breyer, and a ton of other prospects. We'll talk about it tomorrow, guys. Peace, salute. Have a great night.